Chapter 1261. The Wandering Soul Realm. It was also known as the Wandering Soul Ghost Realm. It was a small world relatively close to hell. It was very mysterious and cultivated the ghost path. They were good at raising ghosts. The ghosts here were not ordinary ghosts, but ghost slaves that could sneak into a person's spirit sea and devour their soul. Many people didn't want to deal with this small world because it was too scary. The unknown was the scariest because you didn't know when the other party would release a ghost slave, sneak into your spirit sea, and constantly nibble away at it. In the end, the person would turn into a fool, lose his mind, and die. Even a little saint could be eaten alive, let alone a half-step saint like Bufang. There were many first-class small worlds present. The Vajra realm and the West Little Buddhism realm were all very strong. However, they were all extremely afraid of the Wandering Soul Realm. Although the Wandering Soul Realm might not be as strong as them in terms of overall strength, it could not withstand the other party's magical means. Needless to say, the Vajra realm, who had big breasts and no brains, was completely restrained by the Wandering Soul Realm. The Wingman Valley, Hell, and other small worlds were also very strong, but they had no means to deal with the Wandering Soul Realm. They could win by relying on their strength to slowly consume the other party. However, it was very difficult to crush the other party. Among these small worlds, the West Little Buddhism realm was the one that could restrain the Wandering Soul Realm the best. After all, the West Little Buddhism realm's Buddhist path was a deadly means to the dark Wandering Soul Realm. Every monk in the West Little Buddhism realm who cultivated the Buddhist path was in the process of constantly condensing relics, which required a strong mental force. Therefore, the Wandering Soul Realm could not win against the West Little Buddhism realm, which had a strong mental force. Everyone present knew the strength and advantages of the Wandering Soul Realm, so they were even less optimistic about Bufang. They believed that although Bufang's means were strong and could fight against the Four Little Saints, that kind of means was useless against the Wandering Soul Realm experts. After all, no matter how strong Bufang's means were, he was only a half-step saint. After all, no matter how strong his means were, his true strength was just that of a half-step saint. How could the mental force of a half-step saint be comparable to that of a little saint? It was already not bad for a half-saint to be able to condense his divine sense. The levels of mental energy were divided into divine perception, divine sense, divine soul. Being able to condense divine perception was already considered monstrous. As for divine will, only the top monstrous geniuses in the little saint realm could condense it. It was the crystallization of highly condensed spiritual energy. As for the divine soul, it could not become a divine soul without the great sage. This was enough to show how difficult it was to condense a divine soul. Condensing one's divine soul meant that one had already touched upon the true domain of the gods. Hiss, 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 wisps of black smoke rushed toward Bufang. The entire stage turned dark in an instant, and the audience below couldn't see the figures of Bufang and the Wandering Soul Realm expert. Everyone could only feel a cold and gloomy aura whizzing by. It made everyone's hair stand on end. However, he couldn't see that figure at all. Even they were so nervous, not to mention Bufang, who was in the center of the whirlpool. The means of the Wandering Soul Realm were indeed terrifying. Jia. Do you know what the pain of purgatory is? It's a kind of horror where your skin is being bitten inch by inch, and your mental energy is being nibbled away bit by bit. You can only watch helplessly as you become food, but you can't struggle or resist. It's a kind of fear that you will never forget. The Wandering Soul Realm's little saint kept talking, and his cold laughter drifted over the entire arena. Bufang's face was very strange. Bufang didn't comment on the Wandering Soul Realm's little saint's words. Of course, he didn't know about the torture of purgatory. He didn't want to know. He grabbed the bandage and slowly wrapped it around his arm. Black and white lines emerged on his Taotai arm, covered by the bandage. It was impossible to see them clearly. Bufang's movements were very slow, careful, and serious. His attitude seemed to have angered the Wandering Soul Realm's little saint. You're courting death." A shrill scream rang out. The wandering soul realm's little saint's voice suddenly rose, and then it seemed to explode in the entire arena. His voice lingered in everyone's ears. This strange scene caused many people to feel a chill run down their spines. No one was able to see their figures clearly in the dark aura. This was because their mental power could make their bodies disappear. He tied a beautiful bow on the bandage on his arm. Bufang slowly lowered his hands. A moment later, his eyes moved. Slowly, he turned to the right, looking sideways. His head didn't move, but his eyes did. That direction. A face suddenly emerged in the darkness, with a fiendish smile. Suddenly, that face met Bufang's eyes. For a moment, the atmosphere was awkward. "You can't see me." The wandering soul realm's little saint grinned coldly. Then, like a wisp of smoke, his figure began to drift away. After a while, he drifted into the distance. That face appeared once again. However, Bufang's eyes slowly moved, following the movement of the wisp of smoke, staring at him. "Huh?" The pupils of the little saint from the wandering soul realm suddenly shrank, and the next moment, all the hair on his body stood on end. Coincidence? This must be a coincidence. He can't see me. How could a half-step saint see me? Swoosh! The little saint's figure once again dispersed like smoke. When he reappeared, he once again met Bufang's eyes. This time, all that was left was shock. The wandering soul realm's little saint was almost scared to tears by Bufang's eyes. F***CK. It had always been him, the little saint of the wandering soul realm, who pretended to be a ghost to scare people. When did humans become so terrifying? Go to hell. Unable to stand Bufang's gaze, the wandering soul realm expert let out a shrill cry. Then, with a swoosh, he turned into a wisp of smoke, entangling Bufang's mind. It seemed to want to drill into Bufang's mind bit by bit. Bufang lowered his hands and narrowed his eyes slightly. The corner of his mouth twitched. A swoosh sound rang out. In the end, the black smoke of the wandering soul realm poured into Bufang's mind like a whale. From the top of Bufang's head, it turned into a funnel-shaped vortex and drilled into Bufang's mind. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. They stared at the arena. The scene in the arena was completely presented in front of them. Two figures stood there. Bufang, dressed in his striped red and white vermilion robe, stood where he was, expressionless. Not far away from him, the pale-faced, wandering soul realm little saint craned his neck and hunched his back. His black hair fell down and covered his face. Through the fine strands of hair, he stared at Bufang with bloodshot eyes. The two of them stood motionless in place. The wind blew, but it didn't cause the slightest ripple. Hee. It's a success. The wandering soul has entered the sea. This little chef is dead. In the wandering soul realm's camp, the ghost-like figure suddenly laughed sharply, and her pale face showed a look of satisfaction. Everyone below the arena sucked in a cold breath. It's over. He's going to lose. The wandering soul realm little saint's mental force has drilled into the little chef's spirit sea. Wait a minute. This little chef may lose his mind and become a complete fool. What a pity. With the strength of a half-step saint, he can fight 4 little saint opponents. He's a very talented existence. However, when he encountered the wandering soul realm, I'm afraid he'll become a fool. The audience all felt a burst of pity. The best way to face the wandering soul realm experts was to prevent their mental force from invading one's mind. Only in this way could one have a chance to resist and win. However, once the mental force was invaded, it meant failure. The wandering soul realms means in the spirit sea. After all, this was what they were searching on. Umaba, Owner Bu is in danger. Fa Wu of the Westlaw Buddhism realm narrowed his eyes. He put his palms together, sighed, and chanted the name of Buddha. The Abyss experts and the Vajra realm experts all stared at him coldly. The birdman wearing white jade masks from the Wingman Valley smiled faintly. The Earth Prison experts watched curiously. In the Heaven Chief realm, everyone in the square fell into silence. They were all shocked by this strange means. fighting directly in the opponent's mind. This kind of means was simply unheard of. Their knowledge had really increased. However, could the great demon resist it? The people of the Heaven Chief realm couldn't help but feel nervous, and they all clenched their fists. In Bu Fong's spirit sea, a black cloud swept over, and the black cloud entered in an instant, accompanied by a long howl, as well as a sinister cackle. Boom! His spirit sea suddenly surged with raging waves. The wandering soul realm powerhouse stepped on a black cloud and flew over. His eyes were filled with greed and brutality. He hovered over the spirit sea. Then, with a thought in his mind, in the next moment, a huge shadow of a devil appeared around him. The devil was extremely greedy. It opened its mouth and took a deep breath. What pure mental force! The wandering soul realm expert's saliva almost flowed out of his mouth. He didn't expect that the mental force of a mere half-step saint like Bu Fong could be so pure, and it even smelled better than his a little saints. This time, I made a fortune. Boom! The dark clouds swept over and crushed toward the center of his spirit sea, intending to devour it inch by inch from there. In the center of the spirit sea, Bu Fong's figure suddenly emerged. He stood expressionlessly with his hands clasped behind his back. The 4 artifact spirits, who were lying in the spirit sea, suddenly perked up. White Tiger rolled his eyes and snorted proudly. Divine Dragon twisted his waist, his eyes gleaming. Little host, who are you going to possess this time? Choose me, choose me, choose me, Nicholas the Handsome Dragon. You won't regret it. Divine Dragon shouted. The vermilion bird rolled her eyes at the golden Divine Dragon. You stupid dragon. Bu Fong glanced at the 4 artifact spirits and twitched the corner of his mouth. Above the spirit sea, there was a golden shadow. It was a divine wolf phantom, somewhat similar to Bu Fong. All of a sudden, Divine Dragon and Vermilion Bird both widened their eyes and looked into the distance. There, a mass of black smoke was sweeping over at high speed. Little host, there's actually an ignorant thing running into your spirit sea? Divine Dragon said with a look of disbelief. Bu Fong didn't answer. Expressionlessly, he turned his head and looked into the distance of the spirit sea. The black cloud pressed down, bringing with it a surging, murderous aura. It's really a pure and flawless spirit sea. This kind of spirit sea is absolutely delicious. Amidst the black cloud, a figure flew over. At first glance, the latter fixed his eyes on Bu Fong, who was standing in the middle of the spirit sea. His eyes lit up. Found you. The wandering soul realm little saint's face was pale, but he looked excited. Bu Fong looked at him indifferently. Floating in the spirit sea, Divine Dragon, Vermilion Bird, and White Tiger also looked at him indifferently. As for Black Turtle, he was still sleeping. Next to Bu Fong, the Divine Wolf Phantom sat cross-legged. The Divine Wolf Phantom was golden, as if it was made of gold, and its eyes were closed. As soon as the wandering soul realm expert appeared in the spirit sea, he saw Bu Fong. At second glance, he saw the Divine Wolf Phantom next to Bu Fong. He didn't recognize it at first glance. However, when Bu Fong exhaled softly, his eyes widened. When his entire spirit sea surged with waves, he was petrified. Previously, he only cared about feeling the pure aura of Bu Fong's spirit sea. Now, he was shocked to find, how could this half-step Saint Spirit Sea be so king big? And why did that golden phantom look so much like the legendary Divine Wolf Phantom? Where the hell did he come to? Chapter 1262. The Divine Wolf Phantom Spirit was the crystallization of spiritual force. It was condensed by Bu Fong after he obtained the spiritual force cultivation method from the system. Bu Fong had just condensed his divine will, so he was not very familiar with the operation of it. However, according to the introduction of the spiritual force cultivation method, in addition to releasing spiritual force pressure, the divine will could also transmit messages, enter other people's spirit sea, and so on. However, Bufang usually disdained to use this kind of operation. This might be the reason why he was so aloof. The little saint of the wandering soul realm entered Bufang's spirit sea for the first time. When he saw the situation of the spirit sea clearly, all he was left with was confusion. What the hell was that vast spirit sea, which was like a world of its own? Was this a human spirit sea? No matter how powerful a half-step saint's spiritual sea was, it was impossible for it to be so vast and boundless. Even a minor saint expert would have a barrier in their spiritual sea. In order to improve their spiritual power, they would need to constantly expand their spiritual sea. However, when he looked at Bufang's boundless spirit sea, which was like a real ocean, his heart suddenly trembled. Did he come to the spirit sea of a great sage? Why did he have a feeling that he was courting death? The black ghost slave floating behind him sensed the spirit sea's aura and opened its mouth to let out a deafening roar. The next moment, its whole body was wrapped in black smoke as it rushed toward the churning spirit sea below. With a swoosh, it left a black line behind. At this time, the wandering soul realm expert also came to his senses. His eyes suddenly focused. He stared at the divine will phantom spirit next to Bufang, the corners of his mouth twitching. How can a mere half-step saint have a divine sense phantom? Your spiritual sea is so powerful. Perhaps it's because of your innate talent. This also explains why you can fight 4 minor saints, even though you're just a half-step saint. You're just trying to mystify us. The wandering soul realm expert grinned. His eyes were fixed on Bufang. A strange expression emerged on his face. As for the divine sense phantom image, do you believe that a half-saint has a divine sense phantom image? Even the genius of the D Ting clan, which ranked first among the 9 clans in Nether Prison, could not form his divine will when he was just a half-step saint. So why would he believe that Bufang had condensed his divine will? He was not stupid. So what if your spirit sea is so vast? The spirit sea is the home ground of my wandering soul realm. After devouring such a vast spirit sea, my cultivation base might even break through to the second stage professional little saint. You are an opportunity that belongs to me. The little saint of the wandering soul realm suddenly became greedy. He was actually frightened by Bufang earlier. He was actually frightened by a half-saint. It was simply humiliating. Bufang had a strange expression on his face. Looking at the confident little saint of the wandering soul realm, he didn't seem to understand where his sense of superiority came from. The ghost slave, wrapped in black smoke, rushed toward the spirit sea. He wanted to devour the entire spirit sea. The ghost slave opened his mouth greedily, and the ghost fire in his eyes jumped. You can't escape. The little saint of the wandering soul realm burst out laughing. Bufang was speechless. Did he say he was going to escape? And did this guy selectively ignore the 4 artifact spirits? Was he going to pretend that he didn't see those huge figures? Or was this guy selectively blind? When the Taoye soul ran into his mind and wanted to possess him, it was scared to see the golden divine dragon, the vermilion bird, and the black tortoise. It shrank to one side and didn't even dare to let out a fart. Now, this expert of the wandering soul realm was so arrogant. Was this what they meant by the ignorant are fearless? At the thought of this, Bufang looked at the little saint of the wandering soul realm with a strange look in his eyes. That strange look made the little saint of the wandering soul realm a little uncomfortable. Ghost slave, suck his spiritual sea dry for me. A shrill cry rang out. The little saint moved instantly. Then, he turned into a jet of black light and sped toward Bufang at full speed. Buzz, strange patterns burst out from his body. Swish! The pitch-black smoke condensed into ice-cold chains. These chains were incomparably black, glowing with a terrifying luster. This is the soul-binding chain of the wandering soul realm. Your soul will be locked by my soul-binding chain and suffer purgatory-like torture. The little saint of the wandering soul realm grinned. Suddenly, he threw out the chain. The pitch-black chains sped through the void, colliding with each other and making clanking sounds. Bufong clasped his hands behind his back, hovering in the void with a calm face. As the chain got closer, when the little saint saw that Bufong didn't dodge, a sneer appeared on his face. "You're courting death." Swish. Suddenly, just as the chain was about to reach Bufong, a claw suddenly appeared. It was a dragon claw. A huge dragon claw blocked in front of Bufong. The chain collided with the dragon claw, entangling it. Ah! The golden divine dragon's whiskers fluttered as it raised its head and let out a cry. Vermilion Bird rolled her eyes speechlessly. What was this stupid dragon doing? In the distance, White Tiger rolled his eyes proudly. Huh! For the first time, the Wandering Soul Realm expert realized that it was a dragon claw. What? This dragon isn't just for decoration? Isn't it just to decorate the spirit sea? The eyes of the Wandering Soul Realm expert shrank as he cried out in horror. He couldn't believe it. In the Wandering Soul Realm, it didn't care about their appearance, but they would decorate their spirit sea. All kinds of divine mountains, divine beasts, and divine trees were moved into their spirit sea. Of course, these were all fake, but they could satisfy their vanity and needs. The beauty and coolness of their spirit sea were the key to whether they could attract the opposite sex. In his opinion, Bufong might be a man with the same interests as him. Decoration. Do you think Nicholas the Handsome Dragon is a decoration? Have you ever seen such a handsome decoration? The Golden Divine Dragon's huge head moved sideways, setting off a gust of wind as it approached the little saint. The little saint's pupils constricted. He sucked in a cold breath. The next moment, his eyes suddenly became sharp. So what if you're not a decoration? Even if it's a dragon, in front of this daddy, it has to coil up. Your dragon looks pretty good. I can move it into this daddy's spirit sea. The little saint grinned. Then his eyes glowed red, and he suddenly tried to pull the chain in his hand. Swish, the soul binding chains collided. Ah! The Golden Divine Dragon roared again. Harder! Don't stop! Hurry! The Golden Divine Dragon roared, and his voice lingered in the whole spirit sea. How is that possible? How could the chain be useless? The dragon in the spirit sea of a half-step saint is so strong. The little saint from the Wandering Soul Realm was stunned. There was a cracking sound. Fine cracks immediately appeared on the chain. With a boom, it broke into pieces, turned into black smoke, and dissipated. His figure staggered in the air. Suddenly, his pupils constricted. He turned his head and looked down. There, his ghost slave was flying toward the spirit sea below, trying to suck it dry. Boom! However, a loud noise rang out. The ghost slave was knocked away when it hit the spirit sea. Water splashed. Rumble. The water splashed, and the whole spirit sea began to churn. The next moment, it fell like a curtain of water. A huge shadow suddenly shrouded the ghost slave's figure. The terrifying old turtle, which was so huge that it covered the sky, almost reached the sky. The black tortoise's earth-yellow eyes turned and locked on the ghost slave. The ghost slave was as small as a dot, floating in front of him. Swish, water vapor spurted out of the black tortoise's nose. Water vapor gushed out. The ghost slave was almost blown away. Then, the black tortoise opened its mouth. Its mouth, full of sharp fangs, suddenly widened, like a sky curtain that covered the sky. Then the sky curtain fell. The ghost slave was frightened. Without hesitation, the ghost slave turned around, planning to flee into the distance, flying back to the little saint. However, the black tortoise opened its mouth and took a deep breath. The ghost slave striding figure retreated toward the black tortoise's mouth. Under the Wandering Soul Realm's little saint's eyes, the ghost slave was completely swallowed by the black tortoise. A ghost slave wasn't even enough to fill the gap between the black tortoise's teeth. After swallowing the ghost slave, the black tortoise looked around blankly. Eventually, he closed his eyes and slowly fell asleep. Swish, with a huge mountain on his back, the black tortoise slowly sank into the spirit sea. Two bubbles appeared on the surface of the water. The Wandering Soul Realm's little saint's jaw dropped. This is not a F** king decoration. Then, this dragon in front of me is also not a decoration? The little saint subconsciously raised his head and looked at the golden divine dragon in the distance, who was looking at him playfully. His mind suddenly trembled. He turned to look at Buffon. This half-step saint. Buffon clasped his hands behind his back and twitched the corner of his mouth. Then, the divine wolf phantom hovering beside Buffon suddenly opened its eyes. Brilliant golden light burst forth, illuminating the entire spirit sea. Rumble. The spirit sea suddenly set off stormy waves, sweeping across heaven and earth. A series of translucent golden ripples spread out from the body of the divine sense phantom. The divine wolf phantom's eyes made the wandering soul realm experts feel as if they wanted to squat down. Puff! The wandering soul realm's little saint's face instantly turned pale. After being swept by the spiritual ripples, his body became broken. He was frightened. He was really frightened. That thing was actually real. It was a real divine wolf phantom. This half-step saint actually had a divine wolf phantom. It was over. He was finished. Their wandering soul realm was finished. In the face of an expert with a divine sense phantom, their wandering soul realm was like a kitten. Their strongest means were completely useless. Run. I have to get out of this place. Even the ghost slaves were swallowed. What was the point of him staying here? Swoosh. His figure suddenly turned into a stream of light, flying as if he wanted to escape. However, a sonorous dragon roar rang out. The next moment, the wandering soul realm little saint found that his body was covered by a dragon claw. You want to run after provoking me? You think you're awesome? The golden divine dragon squinted at the little saint, his dragon whiskers fluttering as he grinned. I was wrong. I had eyes but failed to recognize Mount Tai. Looking at the huge golden divine dragon, the little saint knelt on the dragon's claw without saying a word. Divine dragon, vermilion bird, black tortoise, white tiger. These were all divine beasts, and they were all gathered here. The lineup in this spirit sea was too luxurious. Why did he enter such a place? TSK. This is the first time I've seen a soul dare to enter the little host spirit sea. Your courage is commendable, the golden divine dragon said. Then a majestic pressure suddenly spread out from the golden divine dragon's body. This pressure made the little saint of the wandering soul realm lie directly on the ground, his pupils constricted, and he was shocked. This pressure, bam! However, he didn't have time to think too much. The dragon claw clenched. The little saint of the wandering soul realm was crushed. He turned into a cloud of smoke and dissipated. With his hands clasped behind his back, Buffon looked at the little saint of the wandering soul realm, who had turned into smoke and dissipated. He couldn't help but shake his head with emotion. His spirit sea was impregnable, which was his strongest means. How could this guy barge in so unscrupulously? He wouldn't die if he didn't court death. In the square, everyone's eyes were fixed on the arena, and they all held their breath. Suddenly, some people's pupils constricted. They found that the two figures in the arena had moved. The wandering soul realm experts all narrowed their eyes and grinned. I'm afraid that little chef is going crazy. How could a half-step saint resist the mental force attack of the little saint of the wandering soul realm? That little chef's soul must have been tortured by Soul 8 to the point where he wished for death. Chapter 1263. Cluck, cluck, cluck. The sound of teeth chattering suddenly rang out from the arena. Buffon stood where he was with his hands clasped behind his back, his expression unchanged. Opposite him was the little saint of the wandering soul realm, whose hair hung down and eyes were covered. His face was as pale as a thin sheet of paper. The atmosphere was so awkward for a moment. The sound of teeth chattering came from the mouth of the little saint. As soon as this voice rang out, everyone was dumbfounded. Everyone widened their eyes and looked at the arena. What happened? Hadn't the little chef lost yet? After being invaded by the mental strength of the little saint of the wandering soul realm, it was very likely that he would become a fool. Did he resist it? Everyone present knew the horror of the wandering soul realm, So it was hard for them to believe that Bufong could survive in the hands of the little saint of the Wandering Soul Realm. The little saint of the Wandering Soul Realm specialized in mental strength, which should be fatal to Bufong. After all, in the eyes of the crowd, Bufong was just a half-step saint. The mental strength of a half-step saint was much weaker than that of the little saint, so he naturally couldn't resist the mental strength invasion. What's the outcome? It seems that I can't tell who won. It feels so oppressive. Everyone stared at the arena with wide eyes. They didn't know what the final outcome would be. Suddenly, some people with sharp eyes narrowed their eyes because they saw Bufong move. Bufong's fingers moved slightly. Then, he raised his hand and gently flicked the glabella of the little saint of the Wandering Soul Realm. The latter staggered back a few steps and sat down on the ground. Cluck, cluck, cluck. The Wandering Soul Realm's little saint's eyes were dull. He raised his hands and kept clapping. His face showed a silly expression, and saliva flowed down from his mouth. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air at this scene. What was going on? This time, all the experts were shocked. He felt that it was inconceivable. Judging from the current situation, the little saint of the Wandering Soul Realm seemed to have become a fool. Seeing the silly little saint of the Wandering Soul Realm, everyone was dumbfounded. The little saint's spiritual power invaded the half-saint's spiritual power. In the end, it was a little saint who became stupid. Moreover, it was a little saint who was good at controlling spiritual power. Were they really not seeing things? How could this be? How could Soul 8 possibly fail? How could he possibly fail to deal with a half-saint? In the Wandering Soul Realm, all the experts were shocked. The woman in the lead widened her eyes in shock. They were too familiar with Soul 8's appearance. That was the appearance of dementia. It was the appearance of dementia after one's mental power was completely destroyed. Logically speaking, shouldn't such a situation have arisen from a half-saint? How could this happen? Could it be the backlash of the ghost slave? The woman in the lead could not help but think. Soul 8's ghost slave was famous for being unruly and unruly. It was very likely that when she swallowed the semi-sage spiritual force, she suffered a backlash from the ghost slave. That was possible. If this was the case, it could explain why Soul 8 was suffering from dementia. Of course, she did not want to believe that it was the half-saint who caused Soul 8 to lose her mind. In her opinion, this was completely impossible. After all, Soul 8 was a little saint. Bufong's eyes became much clearer. He twisted his neck, looking at the silly little saint in front of him who had lost his intelligence. A strange look suddenly appeared in his eyes. The latter really would not die if he did not court death. If he had not entered Bufong's spirit sea, it would not have been so easy for Bufong to deal with him. Who knew that the opponent would actually run into his spirit sea? Wasn't this courting death? Because of the loss of his mental power, the latter's cultivation began to slowly dissipate, and he would die soon. There was no way around it. Mental power was the foundation of a person. It was connected to the soul. If the mental power was broken, it was equivalent to the soul collapsing, and he would not be far from death. Commander Mo Yuan returned to the arena. He glanced at Bufong in surprise. He did not expect that Bufong would win so easily. The winner is the Heaven Chief Realm. Commander Mo Yuan said after carefully examining Soul 8's condition. Then, the experts of the Wandering Soul Realm rushed into the arena and brought Soul 8 back. The leading woman reached out her hand and pressed it on Soul 8's head. But a faint, invisible wave spread out. Oh! His soul and mental power were torn to pieces at the same time. Soul 8 really suffered the backlash of the ghost slave. He must have perished together with the ghost slave. The Wandering Soul Realm experts said coldly, "That kid is really lucky. Look at that kid's bewildered face. Obviously, he still doesn't know how he won." The other experts of the Wandering Soul Realm said gloomily. The leader heaved a sigh of relief, and his gaze became much more focused. Then, he turned to look at a young man next to him. "Soul 3, you're up this time. Your ghost slave is the most loyal, so it's impossible for it to turn back on you. Remember, this time, you must turn this boy into a fool." The woman said. The sinister voice caused everyone's body to tremble. Then, everyone let out shrill laughter. "No problem, boss. Wait for my good news. I'm not Soul 8, that trash." The young man smiled. He tapped the ground with the tip of his foot, then floated up to the arena like a ghost and stood in front of Bufong. His white robe hung loosely, and his hands hung stiffly at his waist. His hair was curled, and his eyes glowed with black light. "Well, another one?" Bufong narrowed his eyes. "Don't think you're invincible just because you defeated Soul 8. The power of the wandering soul realm isn't something a half-step saint from a third-class small world like you can imagine," Hun San said. His voice was extremely hoarse, and it carried a strand of arrogance. Commander Mo Yuan glanced around and announced the start of the match. Bufong exhaled softly. His eyes narrowed. The next moment, the young man in front of him once again turned into a plume of black smoke, sweeping over in an instant and pouring into his head like a whale. This trick again? Bufong's face suddenly became extremely strange. The people of the wandering soul realm only know this one move. Outside the arena, the experts of the wandering soul realm watched gloomily. They were looking forward to seeing what would happen after Bufong's mental force was shattered. They wanted to see Bufong become a fool. Soul 3's attack was absolutely foolproof. They just had to wait and see. In the spirit sea, a figure appeared. The yawning gold divine dragon's eyes froze. "Another one?" The little host spirit sea is really lively. As soon as he said that, the dragon claw stretched out again. In the spirit sea, only the miserable howls of the wandering soul realm's little saint could be heard. In the arena, this time, Bufong was too lazy to enter the spirit sea. His mind flickered. He took out a chair from the system storage space and placed it on the arena. Then, he sat comfortably on the chair, took out some spirit fruits, and ate them unhurriedly. Not far away from him was the wandering soul realm's little saint, Soul 3, who was staring at him. Bufong's calm expression made everyone's faces look strange. Did this guy give up resisting? He knew he couldn't stop it, so he chose to die happily? But there's something weird going on. Suddenly, Soul 3 moved. A look of horror appeared on his face. Then, he took a few steps back, sat on the ground, and rolled over. In the end, he trembled all over, his face dull and blank. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air when they saw this scene. Sure enough, it happened again. Soul 3 was also dumbfounded. As soon as the wandering soul realm experts saw this, they all stood up. How is that possible? How could this be? Soul 3's ghost slave was incomparably loyal and stable. It was impossible for it to turn on him. Why was Soul 3 also dumbfounded? Judging from his appearance, his mental force should be torn to pieces. But that kid seemed to be fine. How could this be? The wandering soul realm experts trembled all over. Bufong's calm look made them feel as if there was a raging fire burning in their chests. They couldn't wait to tear Bufong to pieces. Damn it. Soul 3, that trash. He claimed to be the most loyal ghost slave. But in the end, he still ended up like this. He's just a piece of trash. The gloomy woman leading the wandering soul realm was furious. Could it be that Soul 3 was killed by the ghost slave left by Soul 8? Someone suggested this idea. Immediately, it was unanimously agreed. All the experts of the wandering soul realm nodded. It was possible. Soul 8 was devoured by the ghost slave, which might have remained in that kid's mind. When it was about to devour that kid's spirit sea, Soul 3 went in again. So there was another battle. In the end, Soul 8's ghost slave devoured Soul 3. This kid is really lucky, the wandering soul realm expert said coldly. Suddenly, the woman moved. Her white robe fluttered, and she immediately turned into numerous ghostly shadows and appeared in the arena. Around her body, there were many eerie, ghostly shadows floating in the air. "I'll send you to hell," the woman said coldly. "Let me send you to hell," the woman said coldly. Bufong glanced at the woman, stuffed the fruit in his hand into his mouth, chewed for a while, and spat out a shell. This woman is the leader of the Wandering Soul Realm experts. She's very strong. Yes, she's called Mei, and she boasts that she's comparable to the geniuses of Nether Prison. She's also a top expert in a first-class small world. This little chef is going to die this time. The people around saw the woman make a move. There was a commotion. As soon as the woman stepped into the arena, everyone's pupils constricted. Whether it was the experts from the Vajra realm, Earth Prison, the Wingman Valley, the West Little Buddhism realm, or even the Abyss, they all sucked in a cold breath. They stared closely at the battle in the arena as if they wanted to see the final result. Buzz, a chilly wind blew, swirling in the air. Then, the woman turned into black smoke and went into Bu Fong's spirit sea. Again, Bu Fong rolled his eyes. She went into his spirit sea again. These Wandering Soul Realm experts are really king stubborn. They're all dumbfounded. Why are they still fighting to rush into my spirit sea? Are they just looking for a beating? With the artifact spirit of the god of cooking set in Bu Fong's spirit sea and the divine wolf phantom spirit, these guys' mental force couldn't do any harm to him at all. As soon as the woman made her move, the Wandering Soul Realm experts screamed. Everyone's face was full of excitement. Obviously, they felt that the woman's attack would be foolproof. Bu Fong grabbed a spirit fruit and took a bite. Then he glanced sideways at the Wandering Soul Realm experts below the arena. The look in his eyes made the Wandering Soul Realm experts gradually stop cheering. They all stared blankly at Bu Fong. That's right. Why are you cheering? What if boss also fails? They had just thought of this. A miserable howl came from the woman's mouth. Slash! Blood flowed from her 7 orifices. She staggered back, grabbing her head and shaking her body. Oh! Bu Fong was stunned. This woman didn't turn into a fool all of a sudden. However, after thinking about it, Bu Fong understood that the failure of the previous 2 experts had made the woman a lot more afraid. Perhaps the latter had only used 70% of her power to enter his spirit sea. The remaining 30% of her mental force was left in his body. However, the 70% that had entered his spirit sea was destroyed by the golden divine dragon. That was why the woman suffered a backlash. I can't believe you have condensed your divine will. What kind of monster is in your spirit sea? Blood flowed from the woman's 7 orifices, and she looked even more terrifying and ferocious. As soon as her words came out, everyone present was slightly stunned. Divine will? How could a mere half-step saint have condensed his divine will? Bu Fong stuffed the last spirit fruit into his mouth. He flicked the water off his hand. Then, he indifferently squinted at the woman. The next moment, a storm was set off in his spirit sea. Boom! After that, Bu Fong's divine will rushed out with a rumble. Buzz above his spirit sea, the divine will phantom spirit's closed eyes opened, shining with dazzling golden light. In the arena, everyone's pupils constricted. They sucked in a cold breath. All of them suddenly felt a terrible pressure, which pressed down on them and made their breathing become rapid. Divine will. It was really the pressure of divine will. Buzz, Bu Fong's body bloomed with golden light. Above his head, a huge divine will phantom spirit suddenly emerged. Bu Fong clasped his hands behind his back. At this moment, he looked like a god. As soon as his divine will appeared, everyone was shocked. Chapter 1264. Divine will. It was a sign that his mental force had been condensed to the extreme. Mental force was divided into 3 levels: divine perception, divine will, and divine soul. Most of the geniuses present, such as Fa Wu from the West Little Buddhism realm, the leader of the Wingman Valley, and the leader of the Wandering Soul realm, were only at the divine perception level. They were still some distance away from the divine will level. But who would have thought that this half-step saint from the Heaven Chief realm actually had divine will? It was simply against common sense and hard to understand. Looking at Bu Fong, whose entire body was emitting a golden radiance, and above his head, a golden phantom figure that looked somewhat similar to Bu Fong was emitting a boundless spiritual pressure. Everyone present felt a wave of suffocation. Only now do they understand why Bu Fong could fight four little saints alone and repeatedly create miracles in the arena. It turned out that it was all because Bu Fong's mental force was so much stronger than theirs. The Wandering Soul Realm expert was already petrified. She was bleeding from her 7 orifices, and her face was full of horror. Divine will? It's not just divine will. If it was just divine will, even if she couldn't escape unscathed, she wouldn't be bleeding from her 7 orifices. Although she hadn't condensed her divine will, she had condensed her divine perception. If she couldn't beat him in a contest of mental force, she could just run away. The scary thing was that she couldn't run away. There was a great terror in that little chef's spirit sea. Bu Fong clasped his hands behind his back, his whole body glowing with golden light. He stared indifferently at the Wandering Soul Realm expert. Buzz, suddenly his divine will moved. The golden divine will above his head reached out a hand, turned it into a finger, and pressed down on the Wandering Soul Realm expert. The terrible pressure made her unable to move. Her mental force was broken, and so was her divine perception. She couldn't resist the attack of the divine will at all. Boom! The finger pressed down. A miserable howl rang out. The terrifying divine will kept suppressing her. The Wandering Soul Realm expert's body suddenly burst into golden flames, burning fiercely. The crowd was dumbfounded. That Wandering Soul Realm powerhouse seemed to have an invisible soul energy extinguished in his body, and his eyes gradually became dull. Then, the golden flames all over her body dissipated. The leader of the Wandering Soul Realm had completely lost his mind. The artifact spirit of the god of cooking set could be considered one of Bu Fong's secrets. Now that the secret was known, Bu Fong naturally had to make a move. His divine sense dispersed. The vermilion robe on Bu Fong's body slowly floated down. With his hands behind his back, he looked at the girl who was in a daze. He exhaled softly. Commander Mo Yuan flew over and turned into a stream of light as he landed on the arena. He stared at Bu Fong in amazement. This time, he was really shocked. It should be noted that even he had only condensed his divine perception. Not to mention spiritual will, not even the shadow of spiritual will could be seen. However, the chef in front of him, a half-step saint, had condensed his divine will. Perhaps this was the so-called genius. The chef's cooking required mental strength. Perhaps the chef was gifted. Otherwise, it would be impossible for him to become such an awesome chef. It's over, Bu Fong said. Commander Mo Yuan recovered from his astonishment and nodded at Bu Fong. In the team competition, the Heaven Chief Realm will fight against the Wandering Soul Realm. The winner is the Heaven Chief Realm. The Heaven Chief Realm has officially become one of the top 10 in the team competition and has entered the semifinals. Commander Mo Yuan said. Outside the arena, everyone was stunned, and then they couldn't help but look at each other in dismay. They advanced just like that? So simple? Wasn't the Wandering Soul Realm a first-class small world? Why was it easier than dealing with the Black-Wind continent? Mo Yin, Zhu Yin, and the others were very confused, and they looked at the Wandering Soul Realm strangely. Was this a first-class small world? It didn't look like much. It was too easy for them to win without doing anything. In the Heaven Chief Realm, the whole square was filled with suppressed laughter. This team competition was a little too easy. The so-called Wandering Soul Realm seemed to have an undeserved reputation. It was said that a first-class, small world comparable to the West Little Buddhism Realm was very weak. The way the experts of the West Little Buddhism Realm looked at Bu Fong had changed. He had condensed his divine will and easily swept the Wandering Soul Realm. This strength was enough to make everyone recognize the chef's strength again. Some people couldn't help sighing with emotion. This was a real example of a person supporting a realm. The arena competition was over. With his hands clasped behind his back, Bu Fong leisurely walked out of the arena. However, he didn't leave. Instead, he waited with the others below the arena. There were still a few matches left, and after they were over, Commander Mo Yuan would announce the schedule of tomorrow's semifinals. Commander Mo Yuan had revealed that the semifinals would not continue with the arena competition. If it were another way of competition, he would have to pay attention to it. Bufang hoped that he could charge in and fight to the death with the Nether Prison experts. Of course, Bufang's goal was to meet the experts of the Nether Puppeteer clan and obtain a sacred Nether Puppet's heart to nourish Xiao Bai. Therefore, he didn't want to be eliminated. Bufang walked out of the arena. This time, however, no one looked down on him. Although Bufang's fleshly body cultivation base was not strong, he possessed divine will, which showed that his talent was absolutely extraordinary. For an expert like him, once he stepped into the realm of the little saint, his cultivation base would improve very quickly. The experts from the first-class small worlds, who didn't take Bufang seriously at all, perked up at this moment. Bufang, on the other hand, was very calm. He stood with his hands clasped behind his back and watched the match in the arena. Today's business had ended early, so Bufang was in a mood to watch the match. It was also the first time he had watched a match seriously. The last match of the arena would decide the last team of the top 10. The contestants from both teams stepped into the arena. When Bufang saw the two teams, his eyes narrowed. Abyss? Vajra Realm? Bufang looked at the two teams with a strange expression on his face. He didn't expect that the fight for the last spot would be between these two teams. It was the Abyss and the Vajra Realm who attacked him yesterday. As a result, they would have to fight for a spot today. However, the Vajra Realm was obviously at a disadvantage. The main reason was that the Vajra Realm was very powerful. With Yizhu, a top little saint, in charge, its power was not weaker than that of the Wandering Soul Realm. However, Yizhu was killed by Bufang, who was possessed by the White Tiger, in his battle with Bufang. The other two little saints were seriously injured in yesterday's attack. Now that they were facing the Abyss, it seemed a little dangerous. The Vajra Realm was punished for yesterday's attack, and all the contestants were disqualified from the individual competition. Therefore, the team competition was their only hope. They didn't want to go back like this. Therefore, they had to fight to the death today. The battle broke out in an instant. Although the Vajra Realm little saint was injured against the Abyss, they still had to fight. After all, the Abyss only sent out little saint. The Vajra Realm half-saint was not as monstrous as Bufang, who could fight 4 little saints alone. Boom! Blood and chi soared to the sky. Blades flashed. The battle in the arena broke out in an instant. The Vajra Realm little saint and the Abyss little saint fought fiercely. The battle instantly aroused the audience's blood. This battle would decide the last spot. So many people were very concerned. Slash! All of a sudden, everyone's eyes narrowed. They sucked in a cold breath. A huge head rose into the sky, surging with blood and chi. The Vajra Realm expert's head was cut off by the Abyss expert with a sickle. The head fell to the ground, rolling. The audience was silent. A strong blood and chi spread. The Abyss expert sneered. He put away his sickle and walked out of the arena. Another little saint from the Vajra Realm had fallen. The eyes of the Vajra Realm experts almost popped out of their sockets. They were almost wrapped in anger. The second battle, the Abyss expert's every move was a killer. Another expert from the Vajra Realm was beheaded. The third match, the Vajra region forfeited. The Abyss successfully leveled up. Abyss, who had slaughtered their way here, also stepped into the top 10 teams and advanced to the semifinals of the team competition. The Abyss powerhouse, who reeked of blood, stood in the arena. For a moment, he looked like a long knife, flashing with a sharp light that made people's eyes sting. The top 10 teams stepped onto the arena one after another. Without a doubt, it was a powerful lineup. West Little Buddhism Realm, Wingman Valley, Abyss, wait a minute, a small world. They were all first-class small worlds. Of course, there were also a few second-rate small worlds and a third-rate small world. So many small worlds had joined together to form a team that had stepped into the semifinals. The semifinals were extremely cruel. As everyone knew, only 3 teams could enter the finals and face the 2 teams from Nether Prison. Commander Mo Yuan stood on the stage. Buzz, the sound of something tearing through the air resounded. Then, one after another, figures streaked across the sky and landed on the arena. Boom! A powerful aura suddenly spread out, causing the eyes of every team's experts to shrink. Most of the little saint present were one revolution little saints. They were the top experts and geniuses of their respective small worlds. They represented their small worlds in the competition. However, in the face of the four figures who landed in the arena, they all felt a burst of pressure. They were the four Earth Prison overlords of Earth Prison. Jin Jiao, who carried the corpse ghost ceiling fan, and Yin Jiao, who carried the purple gold gourd. There was also Luo Ji, who had pink hair and a hot figure. And Yu Ji, who was in charge of maintaining order, carried the huge, overbearing, hefty sword on her back. Bufang was quite familiar with these four people. So when he saw them, Bufang was slightly stunned. Bufang finally saw the Earth Prison overlords again. Back in the Heaven Chief realm, these Earth Prison overlords were suppressed by the will of the Great Path and couldn't fully exert their power, but they were still very strong. Now that he saw them with his own eyes, he felt how strong they were. Each of them was a top expert among the Little Saint. Although their auras were much weaker than by Luo's and Goddess City, they were more than enough. As experts who would dominate the Netherworld's tournament of the Great Path, they were strong enough. Tomorrow will be the semi-finals of the team competition and the individual competition. Jin Jiao was the one who announced the rules. His burly figure made people feel extremely oppressed just by standing still. When he glanced around, his gaze made people's hearts tremble. The rules of the semi-finals of the team competition will change tomorrow. The team competition is about teamwork, and it's impossible to fully display it in the arena. So, the rules have been changed. The semi-finals of the team competition will be held on the banks of the Acheron River outside Forbidden Soul City, and the source of the Acheron River, the town of Acheron. Each team will hold a jade plate of two colors, black and white, with the words Earth and Prison written on it. When you arrive at the town of Acheron, the teams that hold two jade plates of Earth Prison will advance to the next round. If 5 teams hold a jade plate, only the top 3 teams will advance to the next round. However, I don't think you can get all 5, because from the semi-finals onward, your life and death will be determined by fate. In this semi-finals, there will be no restrictions on killing. Everything will be determined by the jade plate. Without the jade plate of Earth Prison, even if you kill all the teams, you won't advance to the next round. Jin Jiao's voice was full of energy and domineering. His voice rang through the whole arena. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. The semifinals would be determined by the jade plate, and there would be no restrictions on killing. Just hearing the rules made people's hair stand on end. The town of Acheron is on the other side of the Acheron River, and you'll need to cross the river. Also, a friendly reminder, there are many treasures on the banks of the Acheron River. If you encounter any treasure on your way there, you can take it because it's your chance. Of course, there are also disasters when there are opportunities. All kinds of savage beasts and disasters will be waiting for you. No matter what we want to see is the combination of the Earth Prison Plate and the Earth Prison Plate. Jin Jiao clasped his hands behind his back and said lightly, "This is the semi-finals of the Netherworld's tournament of the Great Path. It's a cruel competition." Jin Jiao's voice faded away. Everyone felt a big stone pressing down on their hearts, and their pupils constricted. Chapter 1265. As soon as the rules of the semi-finals of the Netherworld's tournament of the Great Path were announced, everyone was shocked and sucked in a cold breath when they heard it. They would travel all the way from the Acheron River in Forbidden Soul City to the Acheron town, which was located at the source of the Acheron River. This was a path of no return, and it contained countless great dangers. The Acheron River could have been called a forbidden land, but because it was too vast, it was not included as such. However, the source of the Acheron River was not much different from a forbidden land. Yet, in tomorrow's team competition, they would have to cross half of the Acheron River. This was simply putting their lives on the line. Many people began to whisper to each other and chatter. Of course, the audience didn't need to care. However, It was not good news for those who had advanced to the next round. Crossing the Acheron River was not an easy task for the first stage Little Saint. Most importantly, in addition to the dangers around the Acheron River, the threats from other contestants were even more terrifying. Whether it was the murderous abyss, the benevolent West Little Buddhism realm, or the Wingman Valley, they were all full of great killing intent. As soon as the rules were announced, a few of the participating teams felt their legs go weak. These teams were from second-class small worlds, and they were lucky enough to make it to the semifinals. Now that they encountered the rules, it was like a disaster for them. Now, the jade plates will be distributed. There are a total of 10 jade plates, 5 white and 5 black. The white jade plates have the word Earth written on them, and the black jade plates have the word Prison written on them. They will be randomly assigned to you. The distribution of jade plates will be done in a secret way. The other teams won't know the color of the jade plate in your hand. Jin Jiao said. The next moment, his eyes lit up and his aura exploded out. Jin Jiao's cultivation base was very strong. When he was in the Heaven Chief realm, even though his cultivation base was suppressed, he was still able to fight Hades' era and even forced Hades' era to summon the Hades armor. It was mainly because his physical strength was strong. Moreover, during this period of time, the cultivation of Jin Jiao and the others had grown tremendously, becoming even more terrifying. Streaks of light shot out one after another. They were captured by the captains of each team. Zhu Yin grabbed the jade plate in his hand in a daze. He was still in a daze. He had thought that the jade plate would fall into the hands of Bufang. He did not expect that it would fall into his hands. Grabbing the jade plate, he felt a wave of warmth. Our jade plates are white, Zhu Yin said to Bufang. Swish, swish, swish. Just as he finished speaking, numerous gazes from the surroundings shot over. The strange looks on those experts' faces made Zhu Yin tremble all over. The corner of Bufang's mouth twitched. Teammate Zhu, you're really a pig teammate. Hell Overlord Jin Jiao had purposely distributed the jade plate in secret because he didn't want anyone to know what he possessed. Once the color of the jade plate in his hand was known, he would be easily hunted down by other teams with other colors. It would be fine if the teams with other jade plates were weak, but if they encountered a strong team like the Wingman Valley, that would be terrible. In the Heaven Chief team, when everyone saw Zhu Yan's performance, they covered their heads in annoyance. How stupid! How could he tell the color of the jade plate? Now, the other teams who had obtained the black jade plates would have their eyes fixed on the Immortal Cooking Realms team. Although many people were afraid of Bufang's divine will, Bufang's team was different. But the Heaven Chief team was still the weakest among these teams. Except for Bufang, the others were simply too weak. As for the other teams, each of them was extremely strong. It was simply despairing. The corner of the Zhu family head's mouth twitched violently. How could his family have such a pig disciple? Give me the jade plate. Bufang glanced at Zhu Yin and said. Zhu Yin hurriedly handed the jade plate to Bufang. Holding the milky white jade plate in his hand, he felt warm. There seemed to be a faint magical meaning spreading from it. At this moment, Zhu Yin regretted it. Once the color of the jade plate was revealed, they were likely to become the target of public criticism. He was a little depressed and hated himself for being so stupid. The jade plate was like a hot potato. Whoever held it in their hands would become the target of everyone else. Zhu Yin knew himself very well. He was no longer the arrogant young man who had just walked out of the Heaven Chief team. Now he knew how weak he was. Without the strength to control the jade plate, it would be a death sentence. Bufang's heart skipped a beat. He planned to put the jade plate into the system's storage space. However, he found that he couldn't store it. As if noticing Bufang's action, Jin Jiao twitched the corner of his mouth and said, all the jade plates in this competition must be taken out and can't be stored in the storage space. This is to make it convenient for everyone to compete for them. The corner of Bufang's mouth twitched. The organizer really doesn't want to blow things up. It's obvious that they want us to fight each other. He breathed a sigh of relief. Bufang put away the jade plate with a flip of his hand. Although he didn't have the system's storage space, he still had a way to store things. However, if he died, the jade plate would definitely fall off. After that, Bufong didn't say anything. Then, he left with Mo Yin and the others. The eyes of the surrounding people were strangely fixed on Bufong and the others as they left, and some of them even revealed cold smiles at the corners of their mouths. The Abyss team. I like the rules of the competition, the Abyss leader said, grinning. The Abyss leader grinned, his blood-red robe fluttering in the wind. We'll do our best to kill that little chef during the competition, the Abyss leader said coldly. The other Abyss experts nodded coldly. The other Abyss experts nodded solemnly. Then, the teams left one after another. Each team looked warily at the others. Now, it was known that the Heaven Chief's team had a white jade plate, and there were 4 of them left. Anyone who exposed the color of the jade plate would easily become a target for others. Everyone retreated. Soon, the whole square was shrouded in an uproar. Everyone was looking forward to tomorrow's semi-finals in amazement. Just by listening to the rules of the competition, one could feel the aura of death surging towards them. There was no doubt that this kind of competition was much more interesting than the arena competition. The night was silent. The next day, in Bufong opened the door and furrowed his brows. Opposite him, Mo Yin and the others appeared, all armed to the teeth. They were extremely nervous about the upcoming competition. After all, they were facing so many first-class, small worlds, and it was easy for them to die. Therefore, they didn't dare to be careless. Although Bufong was here, how could Bufong protect them in all aspects? Bufong furrowed his brows, not because of Mo Yin and the others, but because of the Little Saint's test. He thought he could complete the Little Saint's test before the semifinals and increase his strength to the Little Saint realm. But now it seemed that it was a little wishful thinking. This time, the Little Saint's test was not that simple. The Little Saint's test. The host needs to hunt a 1-star saint beast in the Acheron River Valley and cook its meat. The dish must be approved by the system to qualify for the next round. The requirement to hunt a 1-star saint beast in the Acheron River Valley undoubtedly stopped Bufong from advancing overnight. Moreover, the Acheron River Valley was huge, and most importantly, saint beasts already had spiritual intelligence, so it was not easy to kill them. Therefore, this task sounded simple, but it was not simple at all. Moreover, it was mixed with the semifinals, which made it even more difficult. That was why Bufong furrowed his brows. What's wrong? When Xianyuan Xiaohui saw Bufong furrow his brows, he instinctively asked, "It's nothing. Do you want to participate in the competition this time, or do you want to be safe spectators?" Bufong glanced at the 4 of them and asked suddenly. If they chose to participate, Bufong would give up the idea of taking them into the heaven and earth farmland. Zhu Yin and the others seemed to have made up their minds last night. We want to participate. Although the semifinals are full of danger, His Excellency also said that this competition also contains opportunities. Zhu Yin and the others said, if they could obtain some rare treasures, their strength might increase greatly. That would be a supreme opportunity. Bufong nodded. He understood their decision and didn't say anything. Then he walked out with his hands clasped behind his back. I have a hunch that once the competition starts, we will become the eyesores of countless people, and there will be many teams that want to kill us, Bufong said. The hearts of Mo Yin and the others trembled. So be prepared, Bufong said. At the city gate of Forbidden Soul City, on top of the city wall, there was a dense crowd of spectators surrounding the city wall. The gate opened. With a creaking sound, 10 teams slowly walked out of the gate. Unlike yesterday, today's 10 teams were fully armed. After all, this competition was not a joke. Moreover, unlike the arena competition, many factors could be considered in this competition, and the contestants could also use treasures. There were even more surprises. Jin Jiao hovered in midair with a huge corpse ghost soul ceiling fan on his back, emitting terrifying fluctuations that made people's hearts palpitate. Walk along Forbidden Soul City for dozens of miles, and you will see the surging Acheron River. That is the starting point of your competition. Once you get there, the competition will begin, Jin Jiao said. Then, the corners of his mouth curved upward slightly. So, I wish you good luck. Now, let's go. The corners of his mouth curved upward slightly. So, I wish you good luck. Now, let's go. Roar. In the blink of an eye, the teams in the semifinals looked at each other. Then, they all burst out with powerful auras and sped toward the distance. In the blink of an eye, they were far away. The competition had begun. For some reason, every spectator felt their blood boiling. Bufang glanced at Mo Yin and the others behind him. Then, without saying a word, he sped forward. Mo Yin and the others quickly followed him. They also sped toward the Acheron River in the distance. Rumble. The surging Acheron River, the bleeding Acheron River, was scarlet. As it surged, a towering blood-red light filled the air. In the river, there were dried bones, wreckage, and even the howling of the remnant souls. When Bufang arrived with Mo Yin and the others, the place was already empty. It was already empty. The other teams quickly shot forward and charged into the dense forest in front of them. Bufang looked at the dense forest and felt that it was like a demon that was about to devour people. It was filled with a surging death energy. It was as if countless enemies were waiting for him in the forest. Bufang furrowed his brows. His mind flickered. His divine will swept out. In an instant, Mo Yin and the others were taken into the heaven and earth farmland. Then, the ground under his feet exploded, and he turned into a beam of light, shooting into the deep forest. As soon as he entered the forest, swoosh, leaves fluttered. In the blink of an eye, they were torn to pieces by an invisible force. Wah, wah. In the dense forest, birds flapped their wings and chirped, bringing a gloomy feeling. Bufang suddenly stopped. He raised his head and looked at the trees in the distance. Over there, on the trunk of a large tree, there were 5 figures entrenched. The 5 figures were wrapped in blood-red robes, staring at Bufang with cold and strange eyes. Their powerful killing intent instantly locked on him. Swoosh! A shower of leaves fluttered down. Bufang turned his head slightly and looked into the distance. On a tree over there, a blond man with a white jade mask and a pair of white wings on his back was looking at Bufang with a gentle smile. Chapter 1266. Caw, caw, caw. The sound of birds flapping their wings rang out in the dense forest. The deep forest was filled with killing intent. Fallen leaves slowly drifted down from the trees and swirled in the air. Then, they were hit by a sharp aura and shattered into pieces. Bufang stood where he was. A powerful pressure came whistling over with a gust of wind, sweeping up the fallen leaves and debris on the ground. His vermilion robe fluttered noisily in the wind. Bufang looked straight into the distance, where 5 figures clad in blood-colored robes stood and looked down at him. Their cold eyes were filled with monstrous killing intent. That murderous intent caused people's hearts to tremble involuntarily. On the other side, a Wingman Valley expert wearing a white jade mask stood on a branch. The white wings on his back retracted, and he crossed his arms over his chest. His whole body exuded a holy aura, but at a glance, he gave people a fierce feeling. Abyss, Wingman Valley. Bufang frowned slightly as he looked at the 2 groups of people and said indifferently, "You're finally here," said the leading expert above the abyss, his voice cold and menacing. "I didn't kill you last time, but this time, you won't be able to escape," said the abyss expert. Rumble. As soon as his voice rang out, their auras soared and swept through the world like a gust of wind. The aura of a peak little saint almost suffocated people. The leader of the abyss, who was extremely powerful, fixed his eyes on Bufang. Bufang wasn't surprised that the abyss expert wanted to kill him. After all, he had caused trouble in the abyss. It would be strange if the other party didn't kill him. Bufang turned to look at the Wingman Valley expert, his eyes indifferent. "Don't look at me. I'm just representing the Wingman Valley, and I just want the jade plate in your hand," the Wingman Valley expert said with a gentle smile. "Coincidentally, our Wingman Valley's jade plate is black, which is a pair with the white jade plate in your hand. You should choose to fulfill my wish, right? After all, it's meaningless for you to have the jade plate," said the Wingman Valley expert. Wingman Valley's words made the Abyss experts narrow their eyes and ponder for a while. After that, the leader of the Abyss turned his head and looked at the four people behind him. "Leave this place to me. You guys keep moving. Don't fall behind. If you see any black jade plates, kill them as you please," the Abyssal leader said to the other Abyssal little saint behind him. The four Abyssal little saint nodded. They also understood that it was not wise to waste their time here. The captain could deal with this little chef by himself. If the five of them stayed here at the same time, they would easily lose the initiative. After all, many of the participating teams were very strong. For example, the Wingman Valley, the West Little Buddhism Realm, and hell, if these small worlds seized the initiative and took away all the jade plates, it would be impossible for the Abyss to snatch the jade plates from them. Although this little chef's mental force was strong, the captain alone was enough to deal with him. The four Abyssal little saints nodded. Then his aura exploded out, and he disappeared from the tree as if he had teleported. His body twisted. The next moment, he turned into a blood-colored stream of light and sped toward the depths of the forest. The sound of birds flying away startled them. Soon, there were only 3 people left in the field: Bufong, the captain of the Abyss, and the Winged Man Valley expert. The auras of the 3 of them were constantly intertwined, as if they had formed an invisible domain. In Forbidden Soul City, a huge light screen was projecting the match. Buzz as the image swayed. The huge light screen turned into 9 palaces, each of which projected a different scene. In the square, many people raised their heads and watched the match excitedly. These scenes were also broadcast to the various small worlds through the projection array. Suddenly, some people's pupils constricted, and they cried out in alarm as they pointed to the middle of the 9 squares. The scene made everyone suck in a breath of cold air. The Wingman Valley experts, the Abyss experts, and that little chef, they're confronting each other so soon. The Heaven Chief realm is the weakest and the easiest to target. It's not surprising that the little chef is being besieged by the Abyss experts, but he's being targeted by the Wingman Valley experts? That's strange. Did a stupid teammate expose the color of the jade plate? The people who were watching the match started to discuss it. Without a doubt, this battle was the most attractive scene. The Wingman Valley experts could be said to be a very powerful team in this competition. They were not weaker than the West Little Buddhism realm. Now that such an expert had targeted the little chef, he would not be able to go far. Through the light screen, the crowd could feel the pressure the little chef was under. Bufong looked indifferently at the two. Then he exhaled softly. The Abyss leader's face was cold. The next moment, his aura exploded out. Then, the tree trunk under his feet exploded. His whole body turned into a stream of light and sped toward Bufong. A ripping sound rang out. A blood-colored light burst forth and turned into a blood dragon, swooping toward Bufong. The Wingman Valley expert was not in a hurry to make a move. Instead, he watched with interest. The Abyss was strong, but the Wingman Valley didn't take it seriously. Boom! The ground exploded. Bufong rushed up, shattering the rubble around him. Dodge? You can't. The Abyss leader sneered. With a flip of his hand, a blood-colored spear emerged. He raised the spear, intending to pierce Bufong in an instant. Its sharp cutting force seemed to cut the air into pieces. A terrible aura burst out of his body. The strength of a peak little saint made the Winged Man Valley expert in the distance narrow his eyes. In the Winged Man Valley expert's opinion, the little chef was doomed this time. The little chef was amazing. Since the competition, he had constantly refreshed their worldview. To everyone's surprise, he kept killing strong enemies and made it all the way to the semi-finals of the team competition. Even the Wandering Soul realm, which even the Wingman Valley found very difficult to deal with, was defeated. Of course, this was partly because of the little chef's talent. He was able to condense divine will with his half-step saint cultivation base. Divine will did not enhance one's strength much, so it was not a big threat to little saints like them. But for the Wandering Soul realm experts who relied on their mental force, it was a nightmare. That was why the Heaven Chief realm intruded here. But that was all they could do. They had to stop here. After all, There was only one wandering soul realm. Bufong's face was cold as he stared indifferently at the Abyss Leader. His eyes flickered. Fearless of the Abyss Leader's pressure, he dodged the attack and landed in the distance. "Aren't you going to make a move?" Bufong asked, looking at the Wingman Valley expert. "Me?" The Wingman Valley expert paused, then shook his head with a faint smile. "There's no hurry. I only want her jade plate. Or, if you hand it over, I can save your life. What do you think?" The Abyss Leader's expression changed abruptly at the Winged Man Valley expert's words. The next moment, he sped up his movements. If the Winged Man Valley expert made a move, he was not sure he could kill Bufong. Boom! The will of the heavenly Tao instantly enveloped his body, causing his movements to become even more terrifying. Every single one of his movements seemed as if they wanted to shatter space. Bufong exhaled softly. Bufong had no time to waste on these guys. He still needed to kill a one-star saint beast. The little saint's test was waiting for him. "White Tiger, you come. Make it quick." Bufong landed in the distance. His hands fell to his sides. He said indifferently. In the next moment, his spirit sea suddenly surged with raging waves, and a tiger's roar suddenly exploded. Boom! Waves soared into the sky. Bufong's pupils suddenly turned into swords, which were as sharp as swords. His hair suddenly turned pale and fluttered in the wind, exuding a cold and solemn aura. The pupils of the Abyss experts and the Wingman Valley experts constricted. At this moment, they found that Bufong's aura had changed dramatically. This feeling, both of them narrowed their eyes. It wasn't just them. All the experts who saw this scene through the projection formation were in an uproar. That hairstyle, that look in his eyes, they were too familiar with each other. Wasn't it the figure who stood in the arena with his arms crossed and spoke arrogantly like this? "In my opinion, all of you are trash." His words had aroused the anger of everyone present. Now this guy was here again. White-haired Bufong rolled his eyes. He stood in the distance. The corners of his mouth slowly parted, revealing his white canine teeth. His sword-like pupils suddenly constricted, and he glanced at the Abyss expert. "Trash, I howling him back," White-haired Bufong said in a deep voice. The next moment, he raised his chin and squinted arrogantly at the Abyss and Winged Man Valley experts in the distance. The Abyss expert frowned. "You think you're invincible just because you change your hairstyle?" The Abyss leader sneered. He had absolute confidence in his strength. If he couldn't even kill a half-step saint, he might as well die. A mere half-step saint was like an ant to him. Boom! He suddenly threw out a blood-colored spear. A mighty blood aura burst out of the spear. The power of this throw was extremely terrifying. As it whizzed out, it seemed as though it was tearing the void apart. Die! The sharp spear tore through the air, trying to nail Bufong to the ground. The power of this spear was amazing. White-haired Bufong didn't dodge. He didn't even move. He just calmly raised his palm. With a slap, the spear was sent flying away, easily. "I, howling, have told you. You're all trash." White-haired Bufong proudly raised his chin. Then, his body was like a blurry phantom, dispersing. When he reappeared, he was in front of the Abyss expert. The Abyss leader's pupils constricted. His speed. Roar. White-haired Bufong opened his mouth and let out a roar. His roar shook the sky, and a blue-white tiger seemed to appear behind him, roaring at the sky. Boom! The Abyss captain was sent flying by a huge force and crashed into a large tree. White-haired Bufong opened his fist into a palm and pressed forward. As if falling from the sky, he suddenly collided with the Abyss leader. The two of them moved so fast that they looked like afterimages. In the end, the Abyss leader shot back like a cannonball and smashed the ground, shattering it. Trash! White-haired Bufong floated in the air, his white hair fluttering in the wind. His eyes were full of disdain. He raised his chin proudly. The Abyss leader coughed up a mouthful of blood. He looked at white-haired Bufong incredulously. How is this possible? He's just a half-step saint. Friends from the Wingman Valley. Let's attack together and kill him. The Abyss doesn't want a jade plate, only his life. Kill him, and the white jade plate will be yours. The Abyss leader took a deep breath and turned to look at the Winged Man Valley expert in the distance. The Winged Man Valley expert's eyes flashed. A birdman. Trash. White-haired Bufong turned to look at the Winged Man Valley expert and curled his lips disdainfully. As soon as he said that, the Winged Man Valley expert's eyes turned sharp. In the next moment, he laughed out loud. Friends from the Abyss, let's kill them together. Walala! The Winged Man Valley expert suddenly spread his wings, and white feathers fluttered down. Each of them seemed to have turned into a long, sharp knife and suddenly shot towards Bufong. We Winged Man Valley people hate people calling us birdmen the most. You're courting death. There was a tearing noise. The Winged Man Valley expert flapped his wings. A terrifying aura swept across the world, pressing down on Bufong. White-haired Bufong crossed his arms over his chest and snorted disdainfully. A birdman will always be a birdman. I'm not allowed to call him that. Being a whore and still having chastity? Trash. Boom. His words fell. White-haired Bufong suddenly disappeared. It was like a biguang shuttling through the void at high speed. The next moment, he exchanged blows with the Winged Man Valley expert in midair. The blood-colored flowing light attacked. At the same time, the Abyss expert also charged forward. The Abyss experts and the Winged Man Valley experts attacked at the same time. Rumble, rumble. The aftershocks of the battle echoed for hundreds of miles. The people in Forbidden Soul City could feel it, and the ground trembled slightly. Through the light screen, everyone was dumbfounded by what they were seeing. White wings fluttered in the air. Scarlet blood sprayed everywhere. A white-haired young man suddenly tore the Winged Man Valley expert's wings to pieces. Then, he threw out a spear and nailed the Abyss expert to the ground. The result of the battle was completely beyond everyone's expectations. A domineering aura kept surging. Blood-stained white feathers fluttered in the air. White-haired Bufong crossed his arms over his chest and hovered in midair. Blood flowed under his feet, and his aura fluctuated. The Winged Man Valley expert and the Abyss expert were killed at the same time. They were both dead. His pupils constricted, the corners of his mouth twitched slightly, and he raised his chin proudly. White-haired Bufong glanced coldly at everyone present, as if he was looking at everyone through the light screen. With all due respect, in my eyes, all of you are trash. Chapter 1267. He's dead. Through the projection array, everyone was dumbfounded. Looking at the scene in the array, they felt cold all over as if they had fallen into a 10,000-year ice cave. The Winged Man Valley's little saint was dead. The weakest of the Winged Man Valley's contestants was a little saint, and they were determined to enter the finals and fight with the geniuses of Nether Prison. But what happened? As a result, a little saint was killed as soon as the semifinals began. Even the wings on his back were brutally torn apart by someone. The Abyss expert was also a peak First Revolution little saint. But what happened? He was nailed to the ground by a spear. The result was far beyond everyone's expectation. How could this little chef from the Heaven Chief realm be so strong? Doesn't he only have a strong mental force? The crowd was dumbfounded. Recalling what white-haired Bufong said about everyone present being trash, those arrogant words made their eardrums buzz. This guy seems to have the confidence to say that. Two peak little saint were mercilessly killed. They had all seen the battle just now. White-haired Bufong didn't seem to struggle at all when he fought against two opponents. This meant that this was not the true strength of white-haired Bufong. They were afraid that this little chef would become the biggest variable in this Netherworld's tournament of the Great Path. In fact, not only them, but even Bufong himself was curious about how strong his cultivation base was after being possessed by the artifact spirit. Was he a 2-revolution little saint or a 3-revolution little saint? His white hair faded away, and his sword-like eyes slowly became softer. White Tiger Howl had returned to his spirit sea, but Bufong could still feel the huge deficit in his body. Obviously, this battle was not as easy as it seemed. With his half-step saint cultivation base, The true energy in his body was almost completely consumed. With a thought in his mind, Bufang's consciousness sank into his spirit sea and asked White Tiger what level his combat strength would reach after he possessed it. The White Tiger proudly raised its tiger head and said, "The artifact's spirit possession is divided according to the host's cultivation. The host can only possess one artifact spirit a day. This is the rule, the rule." After being possessed by the artifact spirit, a half-saint host combat prowess is roughly equivalent to that of a first revolution little saint. However, with us here, fighting against a second revolution little saint is not a problem. However, it will take some effort to kill him. As for a third revolution little saint, we can still put up a fight, but don't even think about killing him. Although White Tiger was arrogant, he still answered Bufang's question honestly. Bufang also nodded, indicating that he understood a little. His current strength was that of a half-saint. After being possessed by the White Tiger, he could unleash the cultivation of a first-stage little saint. Normally speaking, spirit possession meant that the user's strength was one rank higher. However, their battle prowess was on a higher level. In other words, their combat prowess was 2 ranks higher. If he broke through to the first stage little saint, then he would be able to fight against a fourth revolution little saint. He withdrew his consciousness. With his hands clasped behind his back, he hovered above the dense forest. 2 corpses were lying there under his feet, blood gurgling out of them. Bufang's eyes became much colder. White Tiger was in charge of killing, and he did not show any mercy when it came to killing. Looking into the depths of the forest, Bufang stepped into the void. With a thought in his mind, in an instant, Mo Yin, Zhu Yin, and the others appeared in front of him. They seemed a little confused as they did not know how they were taken into another world by Bufang in such a short time. When they came to their senses, their eyes fell on the 2 corpses down below. Although the 2 of them were dead, the terrifying pressure that was emitted from their bodies made them feel extremely fearful. The little saint of the abyss and the little saint of the Wingman Valley. Zhu Yin and the others were not too surprised to see the little saint of the abyss, but when they saw the little saint of the Wingman Valley, they gasped. Both of them were dead, killed by Bufang. Was the great demon so terrifying? He even killed the experts of the Wingman Valley. If you want to gain experience, hurry up and leave. Don't let anyone find you. Once you're discovered, it'll be very difficult for you to escape. In the infernal realm, although there are many treasures and heavenly materials along the Yellow Springs River, you need to be alive to obtain them. Bufang looked at them and said. Zhu Yin and the others wanted to take advantage of this opportunity, and Bufang naturally wouldn't stop them. Besides, for them, hell was indeed a great opportunity. The Heaven Chief Realm was in the recovery stage, and it didn't have many opportunities, but hell had already matured. They might get some immortal fruits or nether fruits, and they might become the little saint in one fell swoop. After all, things like opportunities were hard to predict. Let's go. We'll meet in the town of Acheron. Good luck to you. Bufang looked at Zhu Yin and the others and said, Zhu Yin, Fang Yu, Mo Yin, Xinyuan Xiaohui, and the others nodded solemnly. This time, coming to hell to participate in the competition, they finally understood what it meant by there was always a higher mountain and a higher sky. All kinds of geniuses almost made them despair, and their auras made them powerless to resist. If it weren't for Bufang, they would have already returned home. Therefore, they had to seize this opportunity. As Jin Jiao said yesterday, this semifinal was not only a competition, but also a competition to fight for opportunities. All the way up the Acheron River, there were countless opportunities. Boom! The ground trembled. Fallen leaves swirled in the air. Zhu Yin and the others immediately turned into streams of light and shot toward the depths of the dense forest in the distance. They were going for opportunities. Of course, they didn't know if they would survive this trip. However, they were no longer a group of obedient children living in the gentle land of the Heaven Chief Realm. They knew they had to grow up. Maybe after this competition, they would become the pillars of the Heaven Chief Realm. But everything had to wait until they survived. Watching them leave, Bufong put his hands behind his back, his face indifferent. Glancing at the two bodies on the ground, Bufong frowned slightly. He needed to speed up. He had to complete the little saint test as soon as possible and get the black jade plate. Finish the semi-final. And he had a feeling that the semi-final would not be so simple. The organizers were very bold this time. They dared to set the test on the bank of the Acheron River. Weren't they afraid of the anger of the great sage of the Acheron? The great sage of the Acheron River was, after all, a great sage. All the way up the dense forest, battles continued to break out. As they went deeper, the battles became more and more intense. Several second-class small worlds were soon attacked by other small worlds. Their jade plates were also mercilessly snatched away. Some second-class small worlds encountered merciful small worlds like the West Little Buddhism realm. Fortunately, they were spared. But when they encountered small worlds like the Winged Man Valley and the Abyss, they were miserable. Their entire teams were wiped out. Therefore, when they were halfway through the journey, all the teams from second-class small worlds were wiped out, leaving only a few first-class small worlds. Moreover, these small worlds split up and didn't meet each other. Obviously, they didn't want to fight each other. They knew very well that the journey would not be peaceful, and there were naturally powerful savage beasts in the dense forest. Many of these savage beasts were beast saints. After all, the Acheron River was a remote and undeveloped area in Earth Prison. Just like before, a slightly weaker first-class small world broke into the territory of a 3-star beast saint. Its entire team was mercilessly wiped out, and its jade plate was among them. This was an unexpected situation. Jin Jiao had said that if any team arrived at Acheron Town and didn't have 2 jade plates, it meant that all the teams in the semifinals would be eliminated. The competition was cruel, and the ending was even crueler. Therefore, every team was extremely careful. In the projection array, the audience was watching with rapt attention. Some people clenched their fists nervously. The Little Saints test requires you to hunt a 1-star beast saint and cook a dish with it. Bufong pondered. To him, this mission was not easy. First of all, it was not easy to find a 1-star beast saint in the Acheron River. After all, the whole area was so vast, and he didn't know how long it would take him to search randomly. Bufong furrowed his brows. He landed on the ground. The ground of the dense forest was covered with rotten leaves. Swoosh! The fallen leaves exploded. A long snake with the color of rotten leaves bared its fangs. Its fangs were spewing venom as it dashed toward Bufong, as though it was trying to kill Bufong. It was a 7-star beast emperor. Its strength was not bad, but it was not enough in front of Bufong. Before the snake could get close to Bufong, it was set ablaze. The dense white flame instantly burned the long snake into nothingness. Plop! The burnt snake fell to the ground, emitting a strange meaty aroma. Hunting. Of course, I need bait. Bufong looked at the burnt snake, and his eyes brightened. The corners of his mouth twitched. Then, with a thought, a clucking 8 treasures chicken appeared in his hand. 80's eyes widened, looking around with a dumbfounded face. 80, you've eaten countless natural treasures in the heaven and earth farmland. Now, you're not weak among the beast emperors. Moreover, as an 8 treasures chicken, you're very nutritious. Moreover, you're born with a sense for high-grade savage beasts. Can you sense the beast saints around? Bufong grabbed 80, rubbing its head as he asked. 80's small eyes rolled. Its head moved up and down. Then its round and fat body broke free from Bufong's grasp, jumping to the ground. Clucking, it began to run toward the south. However, he had just taken a step when Bufong grabbed his head and lifted him up. Good. You've worked hard. Bufong looked at 80. Then the corners of his mouth curled into a smile as he walked toward the north. 80's eyes widened, staring at Bufong in disbelief. Where was the trust between a man and a chicken? 80 was a precious immortal beast. Moreover, it was a nutritious immortal beast. To savage beasts, it was a huge temptation. Of course, at the same time, 80 also had a natural sense of danger. Once it entered the range of a savage beast, it would naturally turn around and leave. How could Bufong not know 80's character? He kept 80. Bufong flew in the opposite direction of 80. After running for a while, Bufong suddenly felt his whole body turn cold. In the dense forest, dense spider webs suddenly appeared. Bufong's eyes shrank. It stopped on a tree trunk. He looked around. Swish, strand after strand of spider silk fell from the sky. Whistling sounds filled the air as they sped toward Bufong, entangling him. Huh? Spider savage beast? Bufong instantly felt a headache. This was the savage beast that Bufong didn't want to see the most. Because this thing could not be eaten. Boom, boom, boom. The dense forest shook and collapsed. The spider webs floating in the air suddenly turned into sharp spider silk spears, piercing toward Bufong. Bufong snapped his fingers. His divine sense spread out. A white flame burned, burning and twisting the void. Those spider webs were instantly burned and fell. Hiss! A roar came from the dense forest. Bufong immediately furrowed his brows. A gigantic, hairy black spider, dozens of feet tall, crawled out of it, opened its mouth, and hissed at Bufong. The spider flipped over, revealing a woman's face beneath its stomach. One-star Saint Beast, beautiful spider emperor. With the system, Bufong immediately recognized the identity of this savage beast. Unfortunately, it was indeed a one-star Saint Beast, but it was a spider. This thing could not be made into food. Thus, Bufong regretfully shook his head. His feet stepped on a branch, and his figure flew out. He calmed his mind. A dazzling golden beef meatball suddenly hovered above his palm. All of a sudden, he threw it toward the beautiful spider emperor. With a boom, it suddenly exploded. Bufong also disappeared from where he was. Along the way, Bufong had broken into several savage beast territories. Unfortunately, he did not meet a suitable target. He even met a 3-star Saint Beast several times. Bufong could only turn around and run. Through the light screen, the audience, who saw Bufong's behavior, had long been dumbfounded. In their opinion, this Bufong was not a fool. The others were all hiding from savage beasts. In the end, Bufong actually broke into the nest of savage beasts one by one, and then ran away. If this was not sick, what was it? A streak of golden light sped through the dense forest. All of a sudden, it suddenly stopped in the void. Bufong's eyes focused, looking into the distance. Over there, the light of treasures was bursting, and dense spiritual energy was constantly soaring. The sound of killing resounded unceasingly. It seemed that they had met a team in the semifinals. Bufong let Xiaopi take him forward. Soon they flew away. They landed on a big tree, watching the battle in the distance. Xiaopi lazily lay on Bufong's shoulder, blowing bubbles. Watching the battle, Bufong's eyes couldn't help but brighten. In the distance, an expert covered in blood was doing his best to resist the attack of a huge black snake that looked like a flood dragon. Not far from the snake, there were several bright red fruits swaying there. The treasures and spiritual energy were blooming from those fruits. When the audience saw those fruits, they all sucked in a breath of cold air, because they recognized that fruit. It was a supreme-grade, immortal material, the flood dragon spirit fruit. This giant snake was probably going to use the flood dragon spirit fruit to transform into a flood dragon. Once it did, the strength of this giant snake would increase by another level. Everyone thought that Bufong would take advantage of the time when the expert stalled the snake to pluck the flood dragon spirit fruit. However, soon, they all found out that they were wrong, because they realized that Bufong's eyes were bright, but not because of the flood dragon spirit fruit. Instead, it was because of the ferocious one-star Saint Beast, the big black snake, which had beaten the first job little saint to retreat. Chapter 1268. The Dragon Celestial Realm was a first-class small world located near the Wingman Valley and could be considered a friendly small world. However, its overall strength was naturally not as strong as that of the Wingman Valley. The experts of the Dragon Celestial Realm, who came to participate in the Netherworld's tournament of the Great Path, never expected that they would encounter such a disaster. The experts of the Winged Man Valley, who were friendly to the dragon's celestial realm, attacked them without hesitation in order to snatch their jade plates. The Winged Man Valley's jade plate was black, while the dragon's celestial realm's jade plate was white. When the Winged Man Valley experts traveled with the dragon's celestial realm's experts out of kindness, they learned the color of the jade plate they had. In the end, they killed them without hesitation. Of the 5 dragon celestial realm's little saint, only one was left. He was seriously injured and mistakenly entered the territory of a 1-star beast saint, where he was attacked like a storm. If it weren't for his strength, he might have been swallowed and killed by the black serpent, which was about to transform into a flood dragon. However, the dragon celestial realm expert also knew that he couldn't resist for long. He had already been seriously injured by the Winged Man Valley experts, and now he couldn't resist this serpent for long. He was even a little desperate. Suddenly, the sound of something tearing through the air resounded. The dragon celestial realm's little saint's pupils constricted. He sucked in a cold breath. A tree branch in the distance exploded with a loud bang. A figure flew over at great speed, as if turning into a stream of light, crossed the void, and smashed the black serpent's head. The serpent was pressed to the ground with a loud bang. The black serpent was so strong that it was almost about to transform into a flood dragon. As long as the spirit flood dragon fruit matured and swallowed it, it would be able to transform into a flood dragon and gain greater strength. Boom! The serpent was smashed to the ground, and its head collided with the ground, producing a loud noise. The loud noise made the dragon celestial realm expert suck in a cold breath. The smoke and dust dispersed. He looked over and saw a figure hovering in the void. He wore a scarlet robe and had a pair of flaming wings on his back. His jet black hair fluttered in the air, lashing out in the void. This familiar figure caused the pupils of the experts from the Dragon Heaven realm to shrink. You're the chef from the Heaven Chief realm. The Dragon Celestial realm expert took a deep breath and said in disbelief, "Why was the chef from the Heaven Chief realm here? Didn't the Winged Man Valley leave one expert behind to deal with him? Logically speaking, it was impossible for him to escape." Even the weakest of the Winged Man Valley's experts had the strength of a peak revolution little saint. It was not something that this little chef from the Heaven Chief realm, who had the cultivation base of a half-step saint, could block at this very moment. However, the little chef from the Heaven Chief realm was standing in front of him unscathed and had even saved his life. That meant, had the Winged Man Valley expert been killed by this little chef? The expert from the Dragon Heaven realm sucked in a breath of cold air. Then, his expression changed abruptly, and he let out a hearty laugh. Good. It's good that he died. Damn the Winged Man Valley. A bunch of treacherous and cunning villains. Good. The expert from the Dragon Heaven realm laughed, tears welling up in his eyes. His 4 teammates had all died in the Winged Man Valley's pursuit. Only he had escaped. His hatred for the Winged Man Valley was unquenchable. Bufong naturally didn't know what the expert was thinking. At this moment, his only target was the giant black snake in front of him. It was very strong. However, it was the most suitable prey for Bufong. As long as he could hunt it and make it into a dish, he would be able to complete the little saint's test. With a thought in his mind, in the next moment, one explosive meatball after another appeared around Bufong. The next moment, a huge black snake rose from the ground, its majestic body supporting its head. There were many bulging meat bumps on its abdomen. Apparently, it was about to turn into a flood dragon. Unfortunately, it encountered Bufong and the others. The explosive meatballs floated in the air, exuding a hot aroma and dazzling golden light. Bufong narrowed his eyes and stared at the snake, with a thought in his mind. Immediately, one explosive meatball after another whizzed out. With a ripping sound, they turned into streaks of golden light and smashed toward the snake. Boom! Boom! The explosive meatballs suddenly exploded. The Bee Saint's defense was very strong, stronger than that of the Vajra realm experts. After all, a savage beast had thick skin, and its defense was naturally stronger than that of humans. The explosion of the bursting pissing meatball only caused the huge black snake to stagger a little. The Dragon Heaven Realm experts were already dumbfounded. They couldn't believe a half-step saint was beating a beast saint. Beast saints were generally stronger than human little saint cultivators. This black snake was very strong, with thick skin and thick flesh. It would be a little difficult for Bu Fong to deal with it. After all, Bu Fong's strength hadn't reached the little saint level yet, so his damage was a little low. He could only rely on the explosive meatballs. The meatballs continued to explode. They smashed into the black snake's body. A deep pit was blown out of the ground, and the black snake kept struggling in it. The bursting pissing meatball that Bu Fong had chosen was very precise. It was precisely at the snake's vital point. The black snake hadn't turned into a flood dragon yet, so this method was still effective against it. Therefore, under the bombardment of Bu Fong's energy, the black snake kept struggling. After throwing more than 20 explosive meatballs in a row, Bu Fong felt a little weak. Finally, the black serpent was blasted into a motionless state. Bu Fong landed on the cracked ground. The Dragon Heaven Realm experts in the distance were already dumbfounded. Not only him, but the audience watching the match through the light screen was also a little stunned. He wasn't the only one. The audience watching the match through the screen was also in a daze. The Dragon Heaven Realm experts now believe that Bu Fong must have killed the Wingman Valley expert. With so many explosive means, even the Wingman Valley expert would not be able to withstand it. With so many explosive means, even the Wingman Valley expert would not be able to withstand it. Thank you for saving my life, Your Excellency. The Dragon Heaven Realm expert was not an ungrateful man. He nodded at Bu Fong. He opened his mouth and wanted to say something. However, Bu Fong raised a finger and stopped him. Bu Fong glanced at him indifferently, ignored him, and stepped straight into the deep pit filled with billowing smoke and dust. After a while, Bu Fong single-handedly grabbed the serpent's tail and dragged a huge black serpent with him. The dragon bone kitchen knife appeared in his hand. With a ripping sound, Bu Fong slashed the knife horizontally. Then he flipped his hand. He easily cut off a piece of the snake's body. Swish, fresh blood gushed out like a fountain, constantly bubbling on the ground. Grabbing the large piece of snake meat, Bu Fong began to process it. After all, this was the meat of a beast saint, which was full of rich energy essence and spiritual energy. Grabbing the piece of meat, Bu Fong ignored the Dragon Heaven Realm expert and started a fire on the spot. The fire soared into the sky. He took out the white tiger heaven stove, the black turtle constellation wok, and the dragon bone kitchen knife. The black turtle constellation wok was filled with boiling hot water. It was the heavenly mountain spirit spring water. Bu Fong was not that extravagant to use the spring of life to wash ingredients. He put the snake meat into the wok and washed it. After washing it for a while, Bu Fong took out the snake meat and removed the bloodstains on it. Behind the light screen, everyone's mouths were wide open. They were dumbfounded and filled with disbelief. This little chef went through so much trouble to find a beast saint just to eat it? You killed a one-star beast saint for the sake of cooking. I feel wrong for that snake. I can't believe it was targeted by a chef. Everyone was speechless. They watched as Bu Fong skillfully began to cook. Snake meat was very nutritious, not to mention a one-star beast saint. It was even more nutritious. The essence, energy, spiritual energy, and energy contained within it were enough to cook a top-notch delicacy with this ingredient. The dragon bone kitchen knife spun in Bu Fong's hand. Then, Bu Fong held it horizontally in his hand. The kitchen knife made a horizontal cut. Swish! The snake skin was cut open. The snake skin was flipped open, and the tender snake meat was taken out. This black snake was too big, so Bu Fong only took a piece of the best snake meat. This piece of snake meat was wrapped around the snake's gallbladder. It was soft and tender, full of rich and surging spiritual energy. It was the best of the best. The snake skin was skillfully peeled off by Bu Fong. He threw it on the ground. Bu Fong did not want to eat this snake skin. Although it was rich in collagen, Bu Fong only needed snake meat. If he wanted to make snake soup, he could keep the snake skin. However, Bufong did not want to make snake soup this time. After peeling off the snake meat, he put it into the black turtle constellation wok. This time, the black turtle constellation wok was filled with boiling spring of life and sliced sun mother ginger. Bufong looked at the snake meat rolling in the wok. Thick life, essence, energy kept pouring into the snake meat. Because of the sun mother ginger slices, the fishy smell of the snake meat began to disperse. Bufong fished it out of the water. Spirit energy kept dispersing, and a thick meaty aroma spread out, tickling people's taste buds. He put away the black turtle constellation wok. Bufong's mind flickered. Instantly, an iron net appeared. He placed the iron net on the white tiger stove, which was burning with a white flame. The scorching heat caused the air above the iron net to distort. It absorbed the water stains on the snake meat. Then Bufong grabbed the dragon bone kitchen knife, cutting the snake meat into slices. Pieces of meat were placed on the huge grill. Sizzle. As soon as the snake meat was placed on the grill, it gave off a thick aroma. White foam seeped out of the snake meat. When the foam exploded, the fragrance filled the air. Bufong sat cross-legged on the ground. His divine will spread out, covering the white tiger heaven stove. The snake meat on the grill was slowly changing, constantly producing spirit energy. Because of the high temperature, the snake meat actually began to curl. Oil seeped out. The thick meaty aroma wafted out, lingering around. In the distance, the Dragon Heavenly Realms experts were dumbfounded. Cooking at the slightest disagreement was probably what this chef was talking about. He had expended so much effort to kill a one-star sacred beast during the competition. Could it be that he had done it just to satisfy his appetite? What a lunatic! But why did it smell so good? Looking at Bufong, who was sitting cross-legged on the ground, the Dragon Heavenly Realms experts couldn't help but feel a little speechless at Bufong. Why did he trust him so much? Wasn't he worried that he would kill him and steal his white jade plate? Although he also had a white jade plate, no one would complain about having too few white jade plates, of course. The Dragon Heavenly Realms experts couldn't do that. Fortunately, he didn't. Once he made a move, Bufong would instantly possess his tool spirit and kill him on the spot. Of course, the latter didn't make a move, which made Bufong look up to him. The Dragon Heavenly Realms experts didn't disturb Bufong, and Bufong was too lazy to care about him. His hand shook. Bottles and jars appeared in his hands. Bufong grabbed those bottles and jars and sprinkled them on top of them. A pungent smell wafted out of those jars. What's that smell? It's so pungent. The Dragon Heavenly Realms experts couldn't help but sneeze a few times when they smelled the wafting smell. But it was undeniable that the smell of the spices was really fragrant. Squeak! The oil splashed everywhere. The snake meat had already curled up and turned golden. The oil seeped into it, causing small bubbles to appear. The fragrance was rich and mellow. All of a sudden, Bufong's mind flickered. The snake meat, which had been roasted until it was golden on both sides, floated up and fell into the blue and white porcelain bowl that Bufong had prepared. He placed the black turtle constellation wok, heated it, and added oil. When the oil was boiling, he added the snake meat. Sizzle, 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 sizzle. Bufong flipped the wok, rolling the snake meat. He sprinkled spices, chopped scallions, and other seasonings. Shortly, the dish in the black turtle constellation wok emitted beams of golden light. The resplendent golden light caused everyone to open their mouths wide. Unknowingly, saliva began to drip from their mouths. Dong! Dong! The black turtle constellation wok and the stove collided, producing a clear and pleasant sound. When the ingredients had been stirred for the last time, he sprinkled spices for the last time. Then he lifted the wok into the bowl. The incomparably golden and fragrant snake meat was placed into the bowl. Bufong gently exhaled. Using a clean white cloth, he wiped the oil stains around the porcelain bowl. The dish was officially finished. Putting away the white cloth, Bufong twitched the corner of his mouth. The little saint's test dish, salt and pepper flood snake meat, is done. Bufong's faint voice rang out. The dish, which was glowing with golden light, had already attracted everyone's attention. At this moment, All the spectators were staring at the light screen where Bufong was. No matter how fierce the battles on the other light screens were, they couldn't attract their attention. What could be more attractive than delicious food? Gulp. The experts of the Dragon Heaven realm swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Standing with his hands clasped behind his back, Bufong stared at the salt and pepper snake meat. In his mind, the system had begun to evaluate the dish. Russell, it smells so good. How can there be such a strong aroma in this earth prison jungle? A figure murmured to himself. Then, in the depths of the jungle in the distance, a wingman valley expert wearing a white jade mask slowly landed on a tree branch. Looking over, he saw Bufong and the Dragon Heaven realm expert in the distance. He had come here to hunt down the Dragon Heaven realm expert. He was attracted by the aroma. He didn't expect to meet that little chef. When he saw the little chef, his pupils constricted, and he felt a little incredulous. Holding his chopsticks, Bufong looked at the dish expressionlessly. He impatiently reached out his chopsticks and picked up a piece of piping hot and oily snake meat with salt and pepper. He opened his mouth and put the meat in his mouth. As soon as the meat entered his mouth, the system's serious voice rang in his mind. Chapter 1269. The spicy and salt flood snake meat was a dish made from a one-star beast saint, which contained abundant energy and essence energy. After being grilled at a high temperature, the meat became curly, crisp, and delicious. After sprinkling the salt and pepper that Bufong had prepared, as well as all kinds of spices, the aroma reached the heavens. It was like a dusty treasure that was suddenly dusted off, blooming with a dazzling brilliance that could shake people's hearts. Boom! Rumble! Thunderclouds rolled over in the sky. Bufong raised his head, looking at the familiar thunderclouds. His face didn't change at all. It had been a long time since he had encountered thunderclouds. Unfortunately, Xiao Bai was still sleeping, so he couldn't help him resist the lightning punishment. Otherwise, after Xiao Bai swallowed the lightning punishment, Xiao Bai's strength would increase tremendously. Previously, the dishes that Bufong had cooked in the competition could only be considered snacks, so they hadn't triggered the lightning punishment. But now, the dish that the little saint was testing was a complete dish. Naturally, it would trigger the lightning punishment. Moreover, it wouldn't be an ordinary lightning punishment. Whether it was the ingredients or the cooking skills, they were all top-notch. For this dish, Bufong had put his heart and soul into it. The oppressive thunderclouds in the sky continued to spread and disperse. However, Bufong didn't raise his head to look at the sky. Instead, he reached out his chopsticks, picking up a piece of snake meat and putting it in his mouth. As soon as it entered his mouth, the salty taste of salt and pepper spread in his mouth. The snake meat's warm texture seemed to wrap his mouth. With the impact of the snake meat's essence energy, Bufong's eyes brightened at this moment. He gently bit down. A clear cracking sound rang out. The snake meat was instantly bitten into pieces, and steam rose up. The almost perfect texture caused Bufong's body to tremble slightly. The taste of salt and pepper stimulated his taste buds, increasing his appetite. And the tender snake meat and the fragrant taste made him unable to stop himself. Bufong nodded. This dish was really good. He originally wanted to make snake meat soup, but now it seemed that salt and pepper snake meat was much better than snake meat soup. In fact, when the snake meat was made into snake meat soup, apart from the delicious soup, the taste of the snake meat was actually not that good. It was incomparable to salt and pepper snake meat. This was also the reason why Bufong had chosen the salt and pepper snake meat after much consideration. In the distance, the experts of the Dragon Heaven realm had long since widened their eyes. The fragrance that filled the air caused him to involuntarily swallow his saliva. It was truly too fragrant. Moreover, looking at the way Bufong was eating, he couldn't help but want to try it. It wasn't just him. Even the audience who saw this scene through the projection array was in an uproar. It looks delicious. This guy killed a one-star sacred beast. Could it be that he really did it just to satisfy his desire for good food? A chef is indeed a chef. For the sake of eating, he killed a beast saint. Everyone was shocked by Bufong's behavior. They couldn't understand Bufong's behavior. After all, they were in the middle of a competition, but he actually had the leisure to look for ingredients to cook. This was simply crazy. Rustle in the distance, the leaves rustled. The Dragon Heaven Realm expert, who was attracted by Bufong's food, suddenly felt his heart collapse. He turned his head and looked over with a vigilant look in his eyes. In the shadow of the dense forest, a figure slowly emerged. With a swoosh, a pair of white and holy wings spread out from his back, making people feel very comfortable. An expert from the Wingman Valley had actually arrived. It smells so good. If it weren't for this fragrance, I really wouldn't have found this place. The Wingman Valley expert was wearing a white jade mask, and he was smiling. His eyes were fixed on the Dragon Heaven Realm expert. After all, he had come here to track this expert. Obediently hand over the jade plate in your hand. You and I are good neighbors. Why must you kill each other over a jade plate? The Wingman Valley expert said with a gentle smile. His voice seemed to be full of charm. Scram, hypocritical birdman. The Dragon Heaven Realm expert's eyes almost popped out of their sockets as he let out a roar. Kacha kacha. Their conversation, naturally, did not affect Bufong. Bufong picked up the snake meat and continued stuffing it into his mouth. The Wingman Valley expert also saw Bufong, and his eyes flashed with coldness. Little chef, you're actually here. You didn't die. Looks like they failed and let you escape. But you're very unlucky to have met me. So this time, you won't be able to escape, Bufong said. The Winged Man Valley expert retracted his wings, causing feathers to flutter in the air. Rumble. There was a thunderous roar. The experts from the Wingman Valley and the Dragon Celestial Realm couldn't help but raise their heads and look at the sky covered by the dense forest. Their expressions were a little strange. The Wingman Valley experts' words did not affect Bufong's mood at all. However, the faces of the experts who saw this scene through the projection array were very strange. Young man, this little chef didn't run away, Bufong said. He killed a Wingman Valley expert and an Abyss expert. Emotinga said, I can already hear the sound of this Wingman Valley expert's wings being torn. Through the projection array, they could clearly see the activities of many contestants, but the contestants didn't know what was happening. The last piece of snake meat entered his mouth. Bufong's eyes narrowed. Bufong didn't pay any attention to the Wingman Valley expert in front of him. In his mind, the system's solemn and serious voice resounded. Evaluating the dish of the Little Saint's test. Dish evaluation completed. Systems evaluation advanced. Congratulations, host, for passing the Little Saint's test. Buzz. The system's words made the corner of Bufong's mouth twitch slightly. After so long, he finally completed the Little Saint's test. Rumble. Above the sky, the thunder clouds suddenly rolled. The terrible pressure of the dark clouds pressing down on the city shocked the experts from the Wingman Valley and the Dragon Celestial Realm. A thunderclap rang out, and the whole forest seemed to be wrapped in a dazzling light. Suddenly, a blue lightning dragon poured down from the thunderclouds and bombarded Bufong. The Wingman Valley expert was taken aback. Tribulation transcendence? The experts who saw this scene through the light screen were also shocked. The pupils of many Little Saint experts constricted. Tribulation transcendence? This was not strange to them. It was necessary to transcend tribulation from the true immortal realm to the saint realm. And the stronger one was, the more terrifying the lightning tribulation he had to transcend. According to his talent, the lightning tribulation could be divided into 3 stages, 6 stages, and 9 stages. Each stage was more terrifying than the last. This fool is transcending tribulation here. He will be extremely weak after transcending the tribulation. How can he stop me? The eyes of the Wingman Valley expert flashed. With a flap of his wings, he suddenly landed in the distance. The experts from the Dragon Celestial Realm were almost desperate. By transcending tribulation at this time, Bufong had almost forced himself into a desperate situation. Transcending tribulation? Bufong was also a little confused. He felt the roar of the thunderclouds. It seemed a little strange. Was he experiencing the dishes, lightning tribulation, or the little saints? Rumble. Suddenly, up in the sky, the blue lightning suddenly changed color and turned purple. It was a purple lightning dragon, glowing with purple light and ghastly purple. It was like a lightning tribulation compressed to the extreme, extremely terrifying. If someone saw the clouds above the forest at this moment, he would be shocked, because at this moment, there were actually two vortexes spinning in the clouds. The lightning punishment that came from the thunder clouds gathered together and turned into a purple lightning dragon. Its power seemed to shatter the void. A purple lightning dragon. Everyone was dumbfounded. They had never seen something like this before. At the source of the Acheron River, a low dragon roar resounded. A huge sleeping beast suddenly raised its head. Its eyes were like blood-red candlelight that was slowly burning. The air that came out of its mouth and nose seemed to be able to overturn mountains. The giant beast looked into the distance at the swirling vortexes in the distance. In the valley, a figure slowly floated over, holding a green blade of grass in his hand as he squinted and looked into the distance. Standing where he was, Bufong's vermilion robe seemed to be stimulated by the lightning tribulation. It turned crimson, and two flaming wings spread out behind him. Bufong's hair fluttered rapidly. With the completion of the Little Saint's test, Bufong's cultivation base naturally stepped into the Little Saint realm. His eyes focused. His mind sank into his spirit sea. At this moment, his spirit sea had undergone earth-shattering changes. A whirlpool actually appeared on the surface of his spirit sea, which was originally ordinary and unremarkable. As the vortex spun, mental force swirled in it, causing Bufong's aura to rise. Is this the so-called first cycle Little Saint? Bufong's eyes narrowed slightly. In the sky, the divine will phantom spirit, sitting cross-legged, turned into a beam of light and landed in the spirit sea's vortex. Energy continuously flowed into the divine sense phantom from the vortex, causing the originally blurry divine sense phantom to gradually become clearer. The Little Saint realm is divided into 9 cycles. That means this vortex spun 9 times. In the distance, the vermilion bird and the golden divine dragon stared at the vortex, their eyes shining. The little host had finally reached the Little Saint realm. His cultivation base was rising, and the difficulties he would encounter in the future would be even more terrifying. They wondered if the little host could endure it. Boom! Bufong opened his eyes and raised his head. Raising his head, the oppressive wind blew against his hair, causing it to flutter continuously. The thunder dragon bared its fangs and brandished its claws, tearing the sky apart. The purple thunder dragon was reflected in everyone's eyes, making them suck in a cold breath. The bandage on Bufong's arm disappeared in an instant, and his Taotai arm emerged. Yin and Yang intertwined. Facing the thunder dragon, Bufong raised his fist. Lunatic! He's using his body to resist this lightning punishment. The Wingman Valley expert looked at Bufong as if he was looking at a fool. Just by looking at the fluctuations and pressure coming from the lightning dragon, he felt a sense of dread. I can't believe this little chef is going to resist it with his body. If he's not a lunatic, what is he? Now, let's see how the little chef is blown to pieces by the lightning punishment. Boom! Blasts of air rolled and exploded. The lightning arcs were so stimulating that the Winged Man Valley experts and the Dragon Celestial Realm experts felt a stinging pain in their cheeks, and their pupils constricted. But soon, however, they all sucked in a cold breath. Bufong stood where he was, yin and yang energy intertwined around his Taotai arm. He was unscathed as if he had blown up the lightning with a punch. Bufong narrowed his eyes as he felt waves of numbness coursing through his body. When these two types of lightning punishments were mixed together, it actually caused his physical body to strengthen. Perhaps this was the so-called baptism of advancement. Bufong stood where he was. Boom! Boom! Then, the lightning punishments fell one after another. The Thunder Dragon, on the other hand, was shattered by Bufong's punches. One lightning punishment, two lightning punishments, the crowd was a little numb. As for Bufong himself, he was panting a little. If only he could have Xiao Bai's lightning eating technique. 3 lightning punishments. This was not the end. When the 6 lightning punishments appeared, everyone was dumbfounded. However, 6 lightning punishments were not the end. When the 9 lightning punishments appeared, everyone was petrified. 9 lightning punishments. Just how monstrous was this little chef? He was comparable to the top geniuses of Nether Prison. Even the top geniuses of Nether Prison, ranging from half-step saints to one revolution little saint, might not be able to attract 9 lightning punishments. The light screen shone brightly. Outside the light screen, a group of people's jaws almost dropped to the ground. Suddenly, the radiance in the light screen dissipated. Gradually, an image appeared. Bufong stood where he was, his hands hanging at his sides, panting. Beads of sweat slid down his face and fell to the ground. In the distance, the experts of the Wingman Valley and the Dragon Celestial Realm were stunned. Suddenly, the pupils of the Wingman Valley expert constricted. He fixed his eyes on Bufong, and his aura exploded out of him. In the next moment, the pair of wings on his back spread out. Feathers fluttered in the air as he shot toward Bufong like a white afterimage. I'll kill you while you're weak. You must be very weak after transcending the 9 lightning punishments. It's time to kill you. A crazy look came into the eyes of the Wingman Valley expert. 9 lightning punishments. A genius who could transcend this kind of lightning punishment would be a nightmare for the Wingman Valley if he was allowed to live. Therefore, he had to be killed. Bufong felt very weak now. He had resisted the lightning punishments with his own strength, which was a lot of pressure for him. He was so tired that he couldn't even keep his eyes open. The sudden attack of the Wingman Valley expert brought everyone back to their senses and cursed him for being despicable. The Dragon Celestial Realm expert unleashed his aura and gritted his teeth, trying to resist the Wingman Valley expert. Unfortunately, he was already seriously injured, so how could he resist the attack? He was seriously injured by the Wingman Valley expert, coughing up blood and flying backward. A slender sword appeared in the Winged Man Valley expert's hand, and he thrust it at Bufong's head. Dying. So what if you transcend the 9 lightning punishments? No matter how talented you are, you'll still die in my hands. The Winged Man Valley expert sneered. His killing intent surged. Bufong lowered his head, raised his eyelids slightly, and glanced at the Wingman Valley expert, who was surging with killing intent. He exhaled softly. One annoying fly. Little Gold, come out and get some fresh air. Remember, rip off his wings for me. Chapter 1270. Using his fleshly body to resist the 9 lightning punishments, which were the combination of the purple lightning punishment from the dish and the lightning punishment from his cultivation base, was a great pressure for him. Even with Bufong's mental force, he was exhausted from dealing with the lightning that poured into his body. He had to constantly transform the lightning power into energy that could enhance his physical strength. Therefore, Bufong was very tired at the moment, and his eyelids almost drooped. At this time, the Wingman Valley expert actually launched an attack. He wanted to kill Bufong before he recovered. He was taking advantage of Bufong's precarious situation. Naturally, Bufong was annoyed by this. Perhaps the Wingman Valley expert was shocked by his purple lightning punishment and realized that if he allowed Bufong to grow up, he might become a very terrifying existence. Therefore, he wanted to kill Bufong at this time. However, he didn't realize that his move had completely enraged Bufong. On the light screen, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air when they saw this. Naturally, they were shocked by Bufong's 9 lightning punishments, which made their minds tremble uncontrollably. Secondly, they were shocked by the Winged Man Valley expert's attack. Naturally, they felt contemptuous of him. This was taking advantage of Bufong's precarious situation. However, they couldn't deny that if they allowed a genius who could withstand 9 lightning punishments to grow up, it would be a disaster for them. The wingman valley expert naturally couldn't accept such a disaster, so he took the initiative to attack. Taking advantage of the fact that Bufong had just survived the lightning punishment and was still weak, the wingman valley expert attacked first. He wanted to kill Bufong on the spot. As soon as he attacked, he used his strongest means. The experts of the Heaven Chief realm all roared angrily. They clenched their fists and stared at the light screen, watching the battle on it. Under the attack of a top first-stage little saint, could Owner Boo still create a miracle? No one knew, and no one had any confidence. For Bufong, who had just passed the thunder punishment, this was almost a hopeless situation, a situation where he was forced to the brink of death. Everyone knew that they were at their weakest after passing the lightning punishment. At this time, how could the great demon resist the wingman valley experts? Bufong's head drooped, his arms hanging down, and his eyes seemed a little gloomy. His muscles were trembling slightly, as if there were streaks of lightning coursing through them. Buzz suddenly. Bufong's aura suddenly changed. The wingman valley cultivator's attack came to a halt. Bufong's hair changed color. Bits of resplendent gold began to spread, and soon, Bufong's black hair turned golden at a speed visible to the naked eye. Her dazzling golden hair fluttered in the air. Blonde hair. The wingman valley expert was stunned because all of them had blonde hair. However, Bufong's blonde hair was a little different from theirs. Their golden hair could be considered yellow, but Bufong's golden hair was F*King real gold. Bufong, who had his eyes drooped, suddenly raised his head. Roar. There seemed to be an invisible dragon roar resounding through the air. The wingman valley expert's pupils constricted, and he felt a chill run down his spine. He felt as if he was being stared at by a peerless monster. He punched. The phantom of a golden dragon suddenly emerged. He let out a long roar and soared into the sky. The wingman valley expert's body tightened, as if he was completely bound by a terrible force. He felt so uncomfortable that he almost vomited blood. That feeling, it was as if there were chains binding his body. At such a critical moment, little host actually thinks of me, Nicholas the handsome dragon. Sure enough, this handsome dragon is little host's true love. He raised his head, opened his mouth, and let out a long roar. Blonde-hair Bufong threw out a punch and laughed heartily. His laughter shook the sky. Boom! The wingman valley expert's pupils constricted. He was knocked flying backward by the punch without being able to resist. His white feathers fluttered in the air as he was sent flying like a cannonball. He crashed into the ground in the distance at high speed. The impact caused the ground to collapse deeply. Puff! The wingman valley expert coughed up blood. His slender sword fell into the distance. How was this possible? A punch. He was knocked flying backward without any resistance. In the face of that punch, he felt as if he was facing his captain. How was this possible? Their captain was a second-stage little saint. Didn't this little chef just break through to the little saint realm? His first-stage mental force vortex hadn't even stabilized yet. How could he exert such powerful strength? Or was this the strength of a genius who had passed the 9-revolution lightning punishment? Blonde Bufong grinned and rubbed his golden hair with both hands, a hint of joy in his eyes. Birdman, how dare you attack me? Nicholas the handsome dragon, my most beloved little host. Do you think you have too many feathers? Little host said the chicken wings on your back no longer belong to you. Said Blonde Bufong, grinning. This is not a chicken wing. This is sacred feather, the sacred feather of the Winged Man Valley. The Winged Man Valley expert roared, his eyes almost popping out of their sockets. Sacred feather? In my eyes, what's the difference between that and a chicken wing? Blonde Bufong twitched his mouth. Let me tell you, when it comes to chicken wings, little host's cooking level is not high. Although he knows how to roast, fry, and braise. In fact, the best is braised chicken wings. I've tasted super delicious braised chicken wings. At that time, I was still following this little host. I remember that the chicken wings were made with the wings of a birdman who claimed to be a god, just like you. That birdman had 6 pairs of 12 wings. TSK, TSK, TSK. Every pair was roasted, golden, and fragrant. Blonde Bouffong's eyes lit up. In his spirit's sea, Bouffong glanced at Vermilion Bird, somewhat speechless. Apart from being narcissistic, this guy is also a chatterbox? Bouffong said expressionlessly. He's not really a chatterbox. Maybe he's been holding it in for too long, and his brain is damaged. Vermilion Bird rolled her eyes. Bouffong twitched the corner of his mouth. He didn't want to say anything more and just let Divine Dragon do whatever he wanted. He had to hurry up and restore his mental force. Under the nourishment of lightning, his body was constantly growing stronger, and his mental force was about to soar. In the spirit vortex, the divine will phantom spirit was constantly absorbing energy. Meanwhile, Bouffong sat cross-legged in midair with his eyes closed. Vermilion Bird saw Bouffong enter a state of recovery. She turned to look at White Tiger. Old White, you should remember the roasted chicken wings the stupid dragon mentioned, right? They're the wings of a real god. We're beasts who have eaten the wings of God. Vermilion Bird said, fluttering her feathers. Chicken wings? I forgot. White Tiger said proudly, lying on one side. After saying that, he stuck out his tongue and licked his lips. Enough. You're the one who has chicken wings. Your whole family is made of chicken wings. The Wingman Valley expert flew into a rage. He jumped to his feet, his aura skyrocketing. Suddenly, a long, slender sword appeared in his hand. Oh, you want to compete with me? It's a pity that I don't have a sword. Otherwise, I'll kill you with my sword in 10 minutes. Blonde Bouffong said regretfully. Then, a golden dragon bone kitchen knife appeared in his hand. Swinging the dragon bone kitchen knife, Blonde Bouffong grinned like a hooligan. Aurora's Sword of Judgment. The Winged Man Valley expert's blonde hair fluttered in the wind. The next moment, the mask on his face shattered, revealing a handsome face. The Winged Man Valley's experts were either handsome or beautiful. This was a well-known fact in the surrounding world. However, one couldn't eat good looks, especially in front of Nicholas the Handsome Dragon. This guy hated people who were more handsome than him the most. Judgment. Blonde Bouffong stared at the Winged Man Valley expert's handsome face. In the blink of an eye, he turned into a streak of golden afterimages. The next moment, when he reappeared, he was already in front of the Winged Man Valley expert. A knife light slashed down. As if cutting tofu, the slender sword in the Winged Man Valley expert's hand was cut in half. A clang rang out. The broken blade fell to the ground. The Winged Man Valley expert froze. His aura also dissipated. The Winged Man Valley's peerless technique was cut in half before they could use it. This sword was a supreme-grade, immortal tool. The Winged Man Valley expert's eyes widened. The next moment, he saw the golden kitchen knife spin. It was as if a divine dragon was flying across the sky. The Winged Man Valley expert howled miserably. With 2 slashes, the pair of white wings on his back was cut off. Blonde Bouffong grabbed the wings, which were dyed red with blood, and grinned. TSK, TSK. Sure enough, the quality is much worse, but it can barely be considered an ingredient. This handsome dragon will help Little Host collect an ingredient, but I have a feeling that Little Host will dislike it. After saying that, Blonde Bouffong put the wings into the system's storage space. Dripping with blood, the Winged Man Valley expert staggered back. At this moment, he understood that he was no match for the man in front of him. He was like a fish on a chopping block. You're really ugly now. You're not as handsome as me. I told you, I can kill you with my sword. Bouffong shook his head. The next moment, he raised a hand and flicked a finger on the Winged Man's forehead. Boom! The Winged Man Valley expert's eyes widened, and he was sent flying backward. Roar! Waves of terrifying aura spread out from the dense forest. In the dense forest, a white spider thread suddenly shot over, turned into a slender spear, and instantly pierced the Winged Man Valley expert's body. With a ripping sound, blood spilled. Then, one spider thread after another shot out and completely enveloped the Winged Man Valley expert. Help! Help me! In the depths of the forest, a huge furry spider flew over and approached in a flash. Hiss! The spider suddenly turned over, revealing a beautiful human face. With a ferocious look on her face, she withdrew the spider thread. The Winged Man Valley expert was pressed under the spider's body and kept being bitten. Clatter, clatter, clatter. One spider thread after another shot toward the expert. Then, one by one, the spiders wrapped around the surrounding trees. The spider threads bounced gently. The next moment, a swarm of furry spiders crawled out of the forest. Hiss! Each spider had the face of a beautiful woman, ferocious and terrifying. Suddenly, a terrible aura filled the forest. This is a swarm of beauty spiders. The Dragon Celestial Realm expert felt a chill run down his spine. He immediately despaired. He couldn't believe that he had encountered a swarm of beauty spiders. He was doomed. There was still a beautiful spider emperor among the group of beautiful spiders, and it was a 2-star sacred beast. It was said that every step in Earth Prison was fraught with danger, and now it seemed that it was true. On the light screen, everyone felt a chill run down their spine when they saw the Winged Man Valley expert being eaten by the beauty spiders. Through the light screen, when they saw the spider beauties appearing one after another, they all cried out in alarm, their eyes filled with horror. It's over. We're dead. The beauty spiders are the killers of Earth Prison's forest. Even a second-class little saint will die if he encounters them. Everyone gasped in shock and gasped. Blonde Bufong wiped the dragon bone kitchen knife and narrowed his eyes. He glanced thoughtfully at the spiders around him, then at the huge black serpent's body and the red flood dragon spirit fruit swaying in the distance. These beauty spiders should have been attracted by the black serpent's body and the spirit fruit. Savage beasts had their own territories. After the black serpent was killed by the little host, its territory lost its dominating aura and naturally became a delicious steamed bun in the eyes of the surrounding savage beasts. What a pity! In front of Nicholas the Handsome Dragon, you ugly things are all trash. Blonde Bufong flicked his blonde hair and said with a deep look in his eyes, "Crack, crack." White bones scattered all over the ground. The beauty spiders, who had eaten the Winged Man Valley expert, suddenly raised their heads. A hissing sound rang out. Then, their killing intent locked on a Blonde Bufong. Dozens of huge beauty spiders immediately turned into streams of light, jumped on the spider silk, and swooped down on Blonde Bufong. The Dragon Heaven Realm expert's legs went soft, and he fell to the ground with a look of despair. He had lost all hope. In the face of a swarm of spiders, he could only die. Suddenly, the experts from the Dragon Heaven Realm were taken aback. Outside the light screen, everyone looked as if they had seen a ghost. In the dense forest, Blonde Bufong, who was covered by countless spiders, suddenly burst out laughing. The next moment, Blonde Bufong burst into laughter. The next moment, beams of golden light burst out of the gaps covered by the spiders. In the void, suddenly, the phantom of a golden divine dragon emerged. The divine dragon hovered in the shadow of a knife. The knife slashed down. One by one, the spiders screamed and burst into pieces. A gust of wind swept up, and the dragon's might was matchless. Blonde Bufong's face was blurred. He stroked his golden hair and exhaled softly. The corner of his mouth twitched, and he said in a deep voice, "Remember the name of the expert who killed you. Nicholas the Handsome Dragon." Chapter 1271. They were dumbfounded. Everyone was shocked. How'd he do it? Those were a group of spider bell. Even a 2-stage professional little saint would have a hard time being surrounded by so many spider bell. But the little chef had killed his way out. His knife came down. One by one, the spider bell was cut in half by the knife energy. Only the spider bell, who had devoured the Winged Man Valley expert, escaped with serious injuries. What happened just now? Everyone seemed a little confused. It was obviously a dead end, so why did the little chef solve it so easily? And who the hell was Nicholas the Handsome Dragon? Who gave him such a retarded name? Blonde-haired Bufong killed almost all the spider bell with one knife attack. He stood where he was, his blonde hair fluttering in the wind, his hands on his hips, and a faint smile on his face. His appearance caused everyone, who was originally in a state of shock, to return to their senses. Strange expressions appeared on their faces. Was this still the expressionless and indifferent little chef they knew? Or was his poker face? His mouth is almost crooked from smiling. They felt that their understanding of Bu Fong had been completely changed. At this time, many people also concluded that as long as Bu Fong's hair color changed, his character would also change. Black-haired Bu Fong, expressionless, indifferent, and silent. White-haired Bu Fong, arrogant, cold, and murderous. Blonde-haired Bu Fong, a narcissistic fool, and a brainless one at that. Nicholas, the handsome dragon. His taste had become so low. The corpses on the ground exuded a strong aura of death, enveloping the whole area in a murderous aura. Blonde-haired Bu Fong's hair slowly changed. His laughter came to an abrupt end, and then a dejected look came over his face. "Why don't you let my beauty stay in this world a little longer?" As soon as he finished speaking, his blonde hair turned black. Her temperament also became cold and aloof. Bu Fong exhaled softly. He raised his hand and rubbed his stiff face. The golden divine dragon, that clown, was always laughing. Even the muscles on his face were not used to it. Bu Fong's mind power had recovered quite a bit. He could feel a strong aura slowly spreading over his body. In the eyes of the experts of the Dragon Heaven realm, Bu Fong's aura suddenly stepped into the first revolution Little Saint realm from the half-step Saint realm and stabilized. Bu Fong clasped his hands behind his back and glanced at the corpses on the ground. He frowned. Zhang Xian thought. He threw the Wingman Valley expert's wings to the ground. He didn't like this ingredient. After all, he was a human. Although the experts of the Wingman Valley were birdmen, they were still humans. If their wings were made into dishes, Bu Fong would feel disgusted. Do you still want to continue? You're currently heavily injured. If you continue forward, it'll be very difficult for you to survive. Bu Fong glanced at the experts from the Dragon Heaven realm and said. The expert from the Dragon Heaven realm took a deep look at Bu Fong. He rose to his feet and clutched his chest. His hand shook. Immediately, a white jade plate appeared in his hand. He handed it to Bu Fong and said, "I'll give this jade plate to you. Thank you for saving my life. I give up this match. I hope you can go to the end." Bu Fong expressionlessly glanced at the Dragon Heavenly Realm expert, then nodded his head. He took the jade plate. This jade plate was also white. It was not a pair with his, so it was not very useful to Bu Fong, but it was better than nothing. He put away the jade plate. The expert from the Dragon Heaven realm took a deep look at Bu Fong. The latter glanced at the corpses around him and let out a deep breath. Then, he shot out and disappeared into the dense forest. The expert from the Dragon Heaven realm left. With his hands clasped behind his back, Bu Fong slowly paced on the ground for a while. He picked the Flood Dragon Spirit Fruit and transplanted it into the Heaven and Earth farmland. The snake-type spirit beasts treat this thing like a treasure. I can transplant it and give it to Hua as a snack. Bu Fong thought to himself. When everything was ready, Bu Fong moved. An explosive force burst out. Bu Fong shot out like a bolt of lightning. His physical strength was more than 10 times stronger than when he was a half-step saint. Although the 9-stage lightning tribulation was deadly, the benefits were undeniable. If Bu Fong met the Vajra realm expert again, he would be able to defeat him without using his Yin and Yang Tao Tai arms. His strength had grown too much. Of course, the increase of his true energy was also terrifying. Now I can move on. My current goal is to enter the finals, get the sacred nether puppet's heart, and repair Xiao Bai. Bu Fong thought to himself. Then, his figure disappeared into the dense forest. At the end of the forest, boom, boom, a series of rumbling sounds rang out. 4 monks in red kasayas flew out of the forest and fell to the ground, their bodies glowing with golden light. Behind them were 3 winged beings who had spread their wings and soared into the sky, as well as 4 abyss powerhouses who were wrapped in blood-red robes. Fa Wu's face was cold. He put his palms together and stared at the Wingman Valley experts and the Abyss experts. Umaba, Wingman Valley, you colluded with the Abyss's murderous demons and killed my West Little Buddhism Realms experts. I won't forgive you so easily. Fa Wu's face was as cold as ice. The West Little Buddhism Realm was also a first-class small world, but they had fallen into the traps set up by the Abyss and the Wingman Valley experts. If one of their junior brothers hadn't blocked the attacks from the two small worlds with his life, perhaps all the experts of the West Little Buddhism Realm would perish. Such a grudge naturally couldn't be easily forgiven. The Wingman Valley expert spread his wings and smiled gently. As expected of the West Little Buddhism Realm, it's a pity that you didn't die after all that. The Abyss expert, holding a blood-colored spear in one hand, grinned grimly. It's useless. You've all been poisoned by my Abyss poison. You can't even use 70% of your strength now. Just give up. Rumble. Fa Wu's face darkened. Behind them was the surging blood Acheron River. They had been forced to the point where they had nowhere to retreat. They knew that the semifinals would be very dangerous, but they didn't expect it to be this dangerous. Swoosh in the dense forest, the sound of something tearing through the air resounded once more. Several figures flew out of the forest. The Earth Prison experts landed on an open space and looked coldly at the Wingman Valley experts and the Abyss experts confronting each other in the distance. The Earth Prison team had joined forces with a first-class small world, which was Earth Prison's vassal world. It had a good relationship with Earth Prison, so it followed Earth Prison. The Hell team was also the only team that had managed to collect the white and black jade plates. Naturally, the Earth Prison team would stay as far away from such a vendetta as possible. They didn't want to be involved in this battle. Boom! The battle between the West Little Buddhism Realm, the Wingman Valley, and the Abyss broke out in an instant. A terrible aura pervaded the surroundings in an instant. The blood Acheron River exploded, and waves soared into the sky. The ground seemed to crack open. The Abyss expert's blood, energy, soared into the sky. He threw out his spear, which looked like a blood-colored lightning bolt that was about to tear the sky apart. The Wingman Valley expert held a silver cross-shaped sword in front of him, his blonde hair fluttering in the wind. His face glowed with a holy light. The cross-shaped sword slashed down. The West Little Buddhism Realm experts, on the other hand, were resisting the poison in their bodies bravely. Buzz Buddhist chants rang out as Fa Wu sat cross-legged on the ground. Suddenly, the image of a Buddha lying on his side emerged behind him. The Buddha pinched a flower and pointed a finger at the spear and the cross-shaped holy light sword. A loud bang rang out. The Buddha trembled violently, and his arm shattered. The spear trembled for a moment before dispersing. Although the cross-shaped holy light sword dimmed a lot, its power did not diminish, and it slashed straight at Fa Wu. With one slash, the Buddha's head was cut off. Slash! The four monks from the West Little Buddhism Realm coughed up blood, flew backward, and fell to the ground, coughing up blood and breathing weakly. They were beginning to despair. Poisoned, they could not resist the joint attack of the Abyss and the Wingman Valley experts. You filthy animals! Fa Wu's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. He no longer had the joy he had when he ate delicious food in front of Bufong's stall. The scene was transmitted to all small worlds through the projection array. Many small worlds fell silent. The West Little Buddhism Realm experts were even more furious. Buddhist chants rang out incessantly, and their voices were deafening. However, they couldn't intervene. After all, this was a competition where the strong preyed on the weak. Damn bald donkeys! Aren't you merciful? You've saved so many people from small worlds. Now, guess who will come to save you? The Abyss experts' eyes were cold. The four Abyss experts grabbed the blood-colored spear at the same time and threw it out. For spears came whistling through the air. Fa Wu roared furiously. Buddhist light burst forth. An indistinct Buddha appeared and pushed out a palm in an attempt to block this attack. However, it shattered in an instant. Puff! Puff! The two monks next to Fa Wu were pierced by the spears, and nailed to the ground. The remnant's soul flew out and entered the blood-red spear. The young F.A. Shang's aura was weak, and he clutched F.A. Wu's arm tightly. "I'm afraid I'm going to see the Buddha this time." F.A. Wu smiled bitterly. It was all because they were too naive. They had saved an expert from a small world, but they didn't expect it to be a trap. Instead, they were poisoned by the expert. Otherwise, even if the Wingman Valley and the Abyss joined hands, F.A. Wu would not be afraid. He coughed up blood, and black blood immediately flowed out of his mouth. "What a pity! I can't eat Onarbu's teppanyaki again before I die. What a pity!" F.A. Wu's face was shrouded in black smoke, but he had a regretful look on his face. "You still want to eat meat before you die? You're really unqualified, monk." The Abyss expert condensed another spear in his hand. He fixed his eyes on F.A. Wu. The next moment, he threw the spear at F.A. Wu's bald head. His killing intent surged. The Earth Prison expert narrowed his eyes. Was the West Little Buddhism Realm's expert going to be killed just like that? It was a pity. After all, the contestants from the West Little Buddhism Realm were all first-class experts. F.A. Wu and F.A. Shang also wore helpless looks on their faces. F.A. Wu hugged F.A. Shang and gently patted his back. "Don't be afraid, senior brother. We're just going to see Buddha and chat with him. It won't hurt," F.A. Wu said with a smile. Suddenly, just as the blood-colored spear was about to land on F.A. Wu and F.A. Shang, a voice suddenly rang out. A rustling sound rang out from the dense forest. The next moment, a black shadow suddenly flew over. Clang! Clang! A black walk shot out and spun continuously, blocking in front of F.A. Wu and F.A. Shang. The spear hit the black walk, but failed to break it. Everyone's pupils constricted. The Abyss expert narrowed his eyes. The Wingman Valley expert also narrowed his eyes and turned his head to look into the depths of the forest. The Earth Prison experts were shocked. "Who is it?" F.A. Wu also opened his eyes and stared blankly at the black walk in front of him. The familiar black walk left him in a daze. Swish! A gust of wind blew past. It rolled up the fallen leaves on the ground. In the depths of the forest, a figure slowly walked out of the forest. His striped red and white vermilion robe fluttered in the wind. A slender and thin figure slowly walked out of the forest. With one hand behind his back and the other holding a teapot, he poured tea into his mouth with a straight face. After walking out of the forest, Bu Fong squinted at the Abyss expert and the Winged Man Valley expert in the distance. The corner of his mouth twitched slightly. "Well, I finally found you. Birdman Valley and the Abyss. It's time to settle our scores." Bu Fong swallowed the tea, stuck out his tongue, licked his lips, and said with an expressionless face, Chapter 1272. "It's you. It's that little chef. How dare he come forward? He's still alive." Everyone present sucked in a breath of cold air. Their eyes were filled with shock. They had never thought that the one who would stand out at this time would be the little chef, the one who had shown brilliantly in the arena. "Umaba, Onarbu, go now." F.A. Wu smiled bitterly. He didn't expect that it would be Bu Fong who stepped forward. What was Bu Fong's cultivation base? He was just a half-step saint. How could he be a match for the Wingman Valley and the Abyss when they joined forces? Even if he came to help, he would only die. In that case, F.A. Wu's sin would increase by another layer. Bu Fong put away the 9 Revolution Great Path tea in his hand and glanced indifferently at F.A. Wu. "It's fine. Saving you is just a bonus. The main thing is to get even with them. They know what I mean," Bu Fong said lightly. His voice lingered in the air. Drinking tea all the way, Bu Fong's mental force had recovered to its peak. Now, he suddenly felt a little eager to have a face-to-face fight with the so-called minor saint expert, to get even with the Abyss and the Wingman Valley. In the distance, the faces of the Earth Prison experts became very strange. They didn't expect this little chef to be so arrogant. Did he think he could be so arrogant just because he had some strength? He really didn't know what was good for him. How strong were the Wingman Valley and the Abyss? Even the West Little Buddhism realm couldn't resist them and was almost wiped out, yet a little chef dared to join in the fun. The reason why the Earth Prison experts chose to stand aside was that they were afraid of the Abyss and Wingman Valley's means. However, their reaction was different from theirs. Behind the light screen, all the people watching the match cheered. Kill them. Little chef, kill those despicable Abyss and Wingman Valley bastards. I've been annoyed by their arrogant faces for a long time. They were the ones who knew Bu Fong's strength the best. Hence, all of them exclaimed and screamed. They knew what Bu Fong had done to the Abyss and the Wingman Valley. As soon as he entered the dense forest, the Abyss and the Wingman Valley sent people to surround Bu Fong and kill Bu Fong. Naturally, he wouldn't let this grudge go so easily. Settle accounts? What right do you have to settle accounts with us? The expert from the Abyss said coldly. I didn't expect you to escape from Captain's clutches, but you didn't take the path you could have taken. Instead, you barged in here. Captain didn't kill you, so we'll naturally kill you now. The experts of the Abyss spoke. Spears condensed in their hands, and their eyes were cold. I didn't expect you to be able to escape from our Wingman Valley's experts. You're pretty strong, the Wingman Valley leader said, narrowing his eyes. Their words caused the surrounding people to suck in a breath of cold air. Obviously, they didn't expect there to be such a secret. Obviously, the experts of the Abyss and the Wingman Valley had attacked Bu Fong. No wonder Bu Fong said he wanted to settle accounts with them. Wait, settle accounts? Shouldn't he be hiding after escaping with great difficulty? Why'd he come here to die? Buzz, the Wingman Valley expert, gently flicked the silver cross-shaped sword in his hand, his eyes cold. Bu Fong put his hands behind his back and looked at them. The wind blew, and his hair fluttered wildly. Escape. The corner of Bu Fong's mouth twitched as he shook his head. Then, with a thought in his mind, suddenly, a pair of blood-stained white wings appeared on the ground. A strong smell of blood spread from them. These chicken wings look familiar, don't they? Bu Fong said, looking at the Wingman Valley expert. Hiss. Wings? That's the Wingman Valley expert's wings. How could the wings of the Wingman Valley expert appear here? From the little chef's spatial ornament? Could it be? As long as the wings are alive, the man will die. I can't believe you killed a Wingman Valley expert. The Wingman Valley leader's eyes widened at this moment. A terrible aura burst out his body. Boom! Waves of air swept out, and a terrible and oppressive aura spread out of the Wingman Valley expert's body. Everyone's pupils constricted as they stared at the Wingman Valley leader in disbelief. This is the cultivation base of a two-revolution little saint. Captain Earth Prison's pupils constricted as he felt incredulous. Fa Wu sucked in a breath of cold air. The Abyss experts were also very afraid. They couldn't believe that the Wingman Valley leader was a two-revolution little saint. They had been kept in the dark all this time. Many people were scared. A two-revolution little saint was enough to change the situation. Once the Wingman Valley expert broke out in a fierce battle, the whole army might be wiped out. It was all thanks to this little chef that the sinister Wingman Valley leader had to reveal his strength. Oh, this is only one pair. I also found another pair on the way here. Bu Fong said indifferently, looking at the Wingman Valley leader. The Wingman Valley leader was calm and didn't feel pressured at all. On a Bu run, you're no match for him. The difference between a two-revolution little saint and a one-revolution little saint is too big. Fa Wu shouted at Bu Fong, his face extremely unsightly. This time, his expression changed for real. If the Wingman Valley leader was a one-revolution little saint, with the means Owner Bu had shown him, he might have been able to escape. But if he was a two-revolution little saint, he would have died. You killed two Wingman Valley experts? You deserve to die. The Wingman Valley leader's heart sank. The Wingman Valley had sent two people to kill Bu Fong. One of them and the Abyss expert were chasing after Bu Fong. The other was chasing after the Dragon Celestial Realm expert in order to get the jade plate in his hand. But now, it seemed that both of them had been killed, and they were both killed by the little chef in front of him. This guy, damn it, rumble. A monstrous airwave burst out. With a cold look in his eyes, the Winged Man Valley leader turned into a stream of light and sped away. In just a flash, he left numerous afterimages in his wake. Moreover, he exuded an extremely terrifying aura. The aura swept out as if to overturn the sky. Suddenly, a silver sword light slashed down, carrying with it a sharp force that seemed to cut the void into pieces. Die! The Winged Man Valley leader's eyes were full of killing intent. Everyone's heart skipped a beat. A two-revolution little saint had finally made a move. This little chef is going to die. How could a half-step saint resist a two-revolution little saint? The gap between them was simply too great. The silver cross-shaped sword light seemed to carry the meaning of judgment and was going to cut Bu Fong in half. Everyone's eyes were glued to this scene. F.A. Wu patted F.A. Shang and smiled bitterly. Now that Owner Bu is going to see Buddha with us, Senior Brother's wish to eat teppanyaki will come true. Bu Fong's face was calm. He looked indifferently at the silver sword light that was slashing toward him. The next moment, golden light burst out his hand. The dragon bone kitchen knife suddenly appeared in his hand. A deafening dragon roar reverberated through the air. Then, a huge phantom emerged behind Bu Fong. Buzz, the will of the great path twisted above Bu Fong's head. It came from the heaven and earth farmland. It was Bu Fong's own will of the great path. Boom! A knife energy seemed to come from the beginning of time. It flew over and destroyed everything in its path. One slash, cutting immortal, Bu Fong said lightly. The next moment, the knife energy collided with the Winged Man Valley leader's silver sword light. Boom! A deafening rumble rang out. The Winged Man Valley leader's pupils constricted. He actually felt threatened by the knife energy. A collision broke out. Then, the wings behind the Winged Man Valley leader spread, and he flew into the distance. His eyes were fixed on Bu Fong. It's a tie. He blocked it. This little chef blocked the attack of the two-stage little saint. Everyone exclaimed, and their eyes almost popped out of their sockets. They found it unbelievable. Holding the dragon bone kitchen knife, Bu Fong glanced sideways at the Winged Man Valley leader. Then he stomped his foot on the ground. His aura burst out and soared straight into the sky like a beam of light. The will of the great path hovered over his head, looking very vague. One knife energy, two knife energies, three knife energies, a total of 13 saber lights gathered continuously. Then, they turned into one knife, the Overlord 13 knives. The phantom of an overlord emerged behind Bu Fong. It was almost tangible, and the will of the great path hovered over his head. The 13 knives turned into one knife and slashed down, destroying everything in an instant. The Winged Man Valley leader's pupils constricted. Aurora, sword of judgment. He roared. The cultivation base of the two-stage little saint was fully displayed. However, he had just broken through to the little saint realm. Therefore, his mastery of power was still flawed. The clouds rumbled. They exploded. Ripples spread out in all directions. In the blink of an eye, a huge silver sword slashed down from the clouds, heading straight for Bu Fong. There was another collision. A terrible rumble spread in all directions. Everyone present sucked in a cold breath. How did this little chef's cultivation base become so strong? Crack! A clear and melodious voice resounded. The Winged Man Valley leader's expression changed dramatically. Looking at the silver cross-shaped sword in his hand, his eyes widened. How could a supreme-grade immortal tool crack? How is that possible? In Bu Fong's spirit sea, little host has broken through to the little saint realm and can finally exert the power of the god of cooking Set. The divine dragon said, swaying his body. The vermilion bird nodded with excitement in her eyes. It was time for the vermilion robe to show its true power. Bu Fong gently exhaled after shattering his opponent's sword with a single slash. Then, with a flip of his hand, he put away the dragon bone kitchen knife. He looked at the Winged Man Valley leader and twitched the corner of his mouth. A half-step saint? I stopped a long time ago. Bufong has broken through to the little saint realm? Everyone was shocked by this news, feeling somewhat at a loss. Before entering the forest, he was still a half-step saint, but when he came out, he became a little saint. Was it really so easy to become a little saint? All of them had spent years in seclusion to become little saints. It was infuriating to compare oneself with others. A bird cry rang out. Bufong's vermilion robe turned crimson in an instant. His flaming wings spread out and flaming feathers fluttered. Then, Bufong turned into a blood-colored beam of light and appeared in midair, facing the Winged Man Valley leader. The bandage disappeared. He thrust out his yin and yang Taotai arms. His blood and chi rumbled. Bufong was fighting the Winged Man Valley leader head-on. Boom, boom, boom. Above the sky, the energy continued to pour out, and the explosions continued. The Winged Man Valley leader's furious roar rang out. The people down below were dumbfounded. Two figures, one red and one white, were fighting in midair. The Winged Man Valley leader was both shocked and angry. He actually felt a terrible pressure from Bufong, which made it impossible for him to move his blood and chi. Boom! A fist smashed into his handsome face, shattering his bones. The Winged Man Valley leader's face twisted. He turned into a stream of light and smashed into the ground, completely shattering it. A second revolution little saint couldn't defeat a first revolution little saint. Moreover, he was just a first revolution little saint. How could he be so terrifying? Smoke and dust billowed. Everyone was dumbfounded and didn't know what to say. F.A. Wu patted F.A. Shang and said, "It seems that we don't have to go see Buddha again. Owner Bu, you're so irritable." Bufong hovered in midair. His scarlet vermilion robe fluttered in the wind. Bufong narrowed his eyes and looked indifferently at the deep pit on the ground. Hot steam rose from his body, which was the embodiment of his physical strength being exerted to the extreme. The yin and yang Taodai arms had mobilized his physical strength to the extreme. At this moment, even if the Vajra realm expert exerted his full strength, he would most likely be killed by his punch. The Winged Man Valley leader was, after all, second revolution little saint, and yet he was almost half dead. The Acheron River rumbled, and the blood-colored water surged endlessly. Everyone was watching quietly, not making a sound. Whether it was those at the scene or those watching through the light screen, they were all shocked. Bufong landed on the ground and slowly walked toward the deep pit. Suddenly, he took a step forward and raised his eyebrows. A burst of silver light suddenly burst out. In an instant, it hit Bufong. With unparalleled power, it was almost unstoppable. Bufong's figure was suddenly blasted backward. The invincibility of the vermilion robe was activated. It offset the attack. Bufong narrowed his eyes and looked over coldly. There, the Winged Man Valley leader floated up. On his forehead, there was a pattern of a holy sword. "Kill me? You think you can?" The Winged Man Valley leader laughed wildly. The next moment, the holy sword pattern suddenly burst into dazzling light. Boom! His aura soared into the sky and turned into a beam of white light. All of a sudden, a blurry figure appeared in the sky. It was the figure of a white expert. He also looked like a winged man, but he had 4 wings. "I'm the grandson of the Winged Man Valley's great sage. What makes you think you can kill me? If you kill me, you'll be killed by the 4-winged great sage of the Winged Man Valley." "Ha ha!" buzzed the phantom of the 4-winged great sage floated in the void. The great sage's aura suddenly spread and filled the sky. In the light screen, Yu-Ji and the other Earth Prison overlords stood up abruptly, their pupils constricting. The next moment, they all unleashed their auras and fled. How dare the Winged Man Valley break the rules? At the source of the Acheron River, the blood-colored illuminating dragon suddenly spewed out blood-colored flames from its nostrils. The figure holding a blade of grass narrowed his eyes. The great sage of the Winged Man Valley dares to come to Acheron's territory and act presumptuously? In Hell Prison's Hades Palace, In the 18th floor of the Demon King Pass, there was a loud bang. The gate of the Demon King Pass shook violently. A terrifying aura spread inside. As soon as the Great Sage's aura emerged in Earth Prison from other small worlds, it caused a storm in the whole Earth Prison. Powerful auras spread in all the Forbidden Lands. Bu Fong hovered in the void, staring at the four-winged figure. He took a deep breath. Suddenly, his mind flickered. He looked up. The void above his head was torn apart, and a pitch-black dog paw loomed in it. Monstrous nether energy suddenly spread. Where did this birdman come from? How dare he attack the Lord Go's people in the Lord Go's territory? A lazy, gentle, and magnetic voice rang out. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.